They suffered stab wounds in the attack and are now being looked after in hospital.
We need to make sure that when people carry out these activities, they feel the full force of the law. People think they can get away with this. The person who firebombed a few weeks ago is out on bail. That's not full force of the law.
This crisis, it's a crisis for all of us. It's not enough to simply say we stand with Jewish communities. Of course we do, but we must show it and act it. And the responsibility lies with each and every one of us, because it is our fight too.
Let's stop importing people from countries where anti-Semitism is the norm. And if our London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, in his infinite wisdom and belief in diversity, thinks that's the sort of diverse view that it's OK to have on the streets of London and the police don't get involved, don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
You keep getting proven right every single time. Jews are not safe in this country.
Well, absolutely. No one can be surprised or feeling shocked that this happened. No Jew certainly is. I mean, we had Zach Balansky last week saying this was just a perceived threat. Well, we can see this isn't any perception. This is real. This is happening on the streets. This isn't just an anti-Semitic terror attack. This is an attack on Britain, on the Western liberal democracy and values.
The first politician that uses the word shocking, I might just go and throttle him, because this is anything but shocking. It's the most expected thing is almost overdue, if you ask me, because, I mean, I just left Israel last week. I thought it would be the last time we were woken up by explosions, but clearly not.
The Jewish community is our community, and their safety is our safety. And we have to make it absolutely clear, robust, strong leadership, and this has to stop, because otherwise it's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Our plan is a complete step change in how we protect communities, moving beyond piecemeal responses to a sustained nationwide effort, one that ensures that people across the United Kingdom can live freely and without fear.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
And good morning. Yes, welcome, UK. It is the home of common sense. It's a bank holiday Monday, and the heat wave is on. Bring it on. Temperatures could reach 35 degrees in some parts of the United Kingdom. So your top tips for keeping cool, please. No harm in that. And don't mention ice lollies. It's an obvious one. Lots to get through this morning. While you're enjoying a day off, by the way, for many, this is the norm. Every day is a day off. The number of people in long-term unemployment is at its highest for a decade. What is going on there? There are just shy of 500,000 Brits who haven't worked for over a year. What is actually going on? By the way, there's plenty of jobs out there as well, and of course it comes at the same time as we hear today that taxpayers are spending 25 times more on welfare for young people than getting them into work. 25 times more on welfare than initiatives to get them into work. These are the findings of the former Government Health Secretary Alan Milburn. We also learned that some parents, and this is a shocker, are stopping their kids from taking on apprenticeships because it means the parents will lose out if their kids are no longer in education. Elsewhere, the Prime Minister has waded into that horrific case of the judge who refused to jail 3 teenage rapists. Starmer has called it appalling. Turns out the judge has form in not jailing people found guilty of serious sexual offences. And Angela Rayner is pressing Keir Starmer to introduce a full under-16s social media ban following mounting concern over kids' mental health. Do you allow your kid to browse the often disturbing delights of Instagram, Snapchat and X? We'll have more on that as well. Anything you want to throw into the mix, we'll take your voice notes on 0344 499 1000. You can message 87222. So it's a happy bank holiday. It's also happy because Charlie Rowley is with. I don't even know how to describe Charlie these days, because once upon a time he'd walk into Talk Towers like this meek character fresh out of Whitehall. Here he was darkening our doorstep on a regular basis with his pronouncements and opinions. And now you're on the team sheet here at talkTV. talkTV, talk radio, talk.
Well, I've only learned from the best, which is you,
very kind.
Ian.
Very kind.
And Jeremy Kyle claims that it's all his doing, I have to say, which is...
Yeah, I have no struggling believing that he did so.
He's taught me everything he knows, but not everything I know. But I'm delighted to be here, so thank you for having me.
Indeed. We should throw in early doors. You're a massive, lifelong Arsenal fan.
I am.
So you smug swine, celebrating like a fool, which was essentially a City loss rather than an Arsenal win. I like to define it like that.
Well, I think they bottled it. Do you remember those bottles? Those bottles that were thrown at Arsenal for the last 3 years when we were always the bridesmaid and never the bride, and this year has been our
Listen,
year.
it's only once every 22 years, so enjoy it. Just enjoy that enjoy that moment. Listen, as a Chelsea fan, I gave up mid-season in thinking there was any silverware or accolade. I even went to the FA Cup final last week now.
Which you should have won, by the way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. And it's great to be, obviously, an FA Cup final, but it wasn't the result that we needed. But it could, I mean, that could have, but had City just nudged in, then... and Champions League final still to be decided, of course, but had that all gone wrong, I mean, Arsenal could have been taken right to the brink and lost out on every single thing. But as it turns out, rather annoyingly, they haven't.
Well, it's been a topsy-turvy of a season because, look, Arsenal have been top of the Premier League for the majority of the year, and so the expectation was, well, the expectation was that they were going to go on to win it, which they eventually have. Yeah. But there was a period when then Man City... overtook us
completely, and there was a wobble for us,
an absolute wobble, and everyone was talking about that Arsenal would do the quadruple.
Yeah.
So it would be the FA Cup, the Champions League, the Premier League, and the Carabao Cup. And of course, we dropped out of the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup quite quickly, and then it became the double, and then we. Arsenal did wobble this year.
They did.
But they were able to overcome, I think, the demons of previous years and go on to win the league.
Can somebody rename the Carabao Cup, by the way? Because it sounds like Carabao. Ridiculous name. Quite say it correctly.
Well, it used to be the Carling Cup.
It was always the Carling
Cup. It was always the
Cup.
sponsor that names the cup, which
is now named after a wild animal. For goodness sake.
Yes, yeah.
The Lynx final. I don't know. We'll wait for that. It could be deodorant spray, couldn't it? Who knows? It's not TalkSport, of course. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense. But it's big in the news. Lots to get through. Interesting, we were talking there, I mentioned at the intro, that the long-term unemployment is its highest for a decade, just shy of 500,000 Brits who haven't worked for over a year. And, of course, we keep seeing these stats, the amount of young people that are not going to work, the amount of people that are on long-term, some form of disability benefit, which is off the scale at the moment. Are we moving into an era of just perpetual unemployment?
I think so, because, look, we've got a record number of people that are called NEETs, and that stands for not in employment, education or training. And when you have young people who are either going to... where there's more people going to university than ever before, but are saddled with all the debt that they have from university, when they're not having the employment opportunities at the end of that, where they then end up maybe doing an apprenticeship, which is a good thing, but it might not be paid, or if they're doing unpaid work just to get the experience to put on their CV, to then have to, which is unpaid, to then have to tout that CV out to other employers to say, right, I've got experience in the workplace, so do employ me full time. It's a troubling time for young people, coupled with the fact that the government have slapped on national insurance contributions for businesses, which makes them now reluctant to employ more people because of the costs to business. I mean, it's the chicken and the egg situation.
I was talking to somebody who runs a pub, quite a big pub. They don't own it; they manage it, but they're obviously responsible for recruitment and all that goes with it. And she was telling me that they're just constantly finding ever more imaginative ways to not employ someone. So splitting shifts, giving people different tasks, slightly reducing someone's time in that area so they can focus on that area, because the cost of bringing in, she said she could do with at least 2 extra people, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because of the cost of employing someone. But what kind of mad world is that?
Well, exactly.
It's almost as if our government have no business experience.
It's almost, you're absolutely right. And some would say that they haven't got any at all. You're absolutely right. But this is the other argument where there was the whole hoo-ha over 0-hour contracts, which I'm in favour of, because I think that benefits a lot of people that just want to work a certain amount of hours, that they want to be more flexible about those hours, and that can benefit students and younger people on one end of the spectrum. It could also benefit pensioners that have worked and retired but actually now want to come back into earn a bit of extra cash and can be more flexible. But this government seems to be totally against that. But when they've slapped on taxes for business, when it makes it harder to recruit people because of that increase in national insurance contribution, the increase in national minimum wage, the increase in business rates, you want to be able to make sure that people can get those jobs on a way in which suits them. But as you say, this government doesn't seem to have any kind of business experience.
Indeed, and the problem is when you have, I mean, I know she's not currently in the cabinet, but it's almost a dead cert. She's going to be in the next one, Angela Rayner. People like that who just have an intrinsic belief that if you own something and run something, you're therefore a rich capitalist who hates working people. Even if you've got like a little boutique shop somewhere flogging souvenirs, nothing grand, those kind of small businesses where your business rates are off the scale, your rents are off the scale, your energy bills are off the scale, you've got to work pretty much to about mid-November in a year until you start to make any kind of profit. So, but people like that, through the eyes of the likes of Rayner, are viewed as these, entrepreneurs. They might as well be that, that Theo fella from Dragon's Den. It's like, no, these are not multimillionaires, Ange. These are just people running small businesses.
Well, don't rule her out, because she could be still the next leader of the Labour Party.
Oh, stop it, Charlie Rowley. Why would you bring me that news at 11 minutes after 6 o'clock on a bank holiday weekend?
It could be true. I know.
Suddenly Rowley plays the Rainer's going to be Prime Minister card.
She could be.
Feeling bilious.
You never know. I mean, I know we can't go into too much depth about Makerfield because of Purdah and broadcasting legislation.
Are we in that now?
But I think
We're always in one of those things, aren't we? Welcome to North Korea, kids. We can't talk about who might win an election.
Well, I know Tuesday is the real sort of cut-off, but even now we have to be slightly careful. But let's suppose if the thesis is, or the thought process is correct, that Andy Burnham, if he wins, the assumption that he'll go on to lead the Labour Party, bearing in mind his whole premise of standing in this by-election is to change the Labour Party. So one can read into that he just wants to lead it. Yes. But if he doesn't win, then of course there are still people like Wes Streeting that resigned from the government that wants to challenge the Prime Minister to take over the Labour Party and obviously become Prime Minister. Now, if Andy Burnham doesn't play a part in that, then there must be somebody from the so-called left that has to put their hat into the ring. And if it's not Ed Miliband, it would be Angela Rayner. So there is a prospect.
It's a kind of curious. I mean, like you say, we can't dwell too much on individual candidates, but there are some specific elements outside of a by-election that make it of interest, because we are talking about potentially the next Prime Minister. But when you stand for a constituency, I mean, my MP, for example, is Laura Trott, lovely Laura. Now, in fairness to Laura, she could have put a blue rosette on her greyhound and would have got elected, frankly. It's Sevenoaks, for God's sake. But I never heard her... Yeah, she was talking about housing and local potholes. She didn't once say, I'm going to change the Conservative Party if I win this constituency. It's a kind of an interesting, almost unprecedented pitch.
It is, and it's... look, it'll be fascinating to how it all plays out. And, the idea that the candidate... I know we won't go into all the candidates, but, Andy Burnham tried to stand before in a by-election, which the Prime Minister... and the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party blocked Andy Burnham standing because they wanted him to remain as the Mayor of Manchester. They thought actually causing a by-election would be too costly. Losing maybe the mayoralty in Manchester and causing a by-election there would be too costly. All of a sudden, there's been a massive U-turn. Very unlike this government, making U-turns. But they made a U-turn and allowed Andy Burnham to become the candidate. And now the Prime Minister is saying he's going to go and campaign for Andy Burnham, who's basically said, well, actually, I want to change the direction of which you, Prime Minister, have been leading us in. I mean, it does scream a bit of a farce. And I don't use the word psychodrama lightly, because having been a Tory special advisor in the last Conservative government, I know a thing or two about psychodramas, which is why the general public
You must have
voted
had
us
some great
out.
psychodramas.
Well, that's why the Tories were voted out so resoundingly in 2024.
Lots to get through. We're also going to ask the question, does Britain have a worklessness crisis? You can message us on that. 87222. You can drop us a voice note, 0344 499 1000. Alarm Clock Britain are out in force this morning. This idea that it's a bank holiday, so no one goes to work on a bank holiday, do they? Loads of people go to work on a bank holiday. Lots of people work. They work while others play. So there's plenty of people today out in their vans, out and about, whether they're cleaning windows, painting houses, whatever. It continues. And many people kind of have to work on it, but the idea, especially if you're self-employed, of just taking a day off is a no-brainer anymore. So, but we have these curious figures that I mentioned there at the beginning, that you have just shy of 500,000 Brits who haven't worked in over a year. So what the heck is going on there?
Well, you know, people think it's beggars belief, because at the same time you'll have more people that are able to, and the stories that we hear, you are able to earn more on benefits if you're out of work than actually working. And I think we've just lost focus as a country, where we should always be focusing on what people can do rather than what they can't do. And so people should be in work, whatever job that is, however many hours, for however long, the flexibility, if that flexibility is required, or whether it's full-time, part-time, working from home. Just being in work gives you so many more benefits than being out of work and just claiming from the state.
Indeed. Let's hear from Alan Milburn. Now, Alan Milburn is a former health secretary in the Blair. I was about to say Brown, but that was more Andy Burnham, wasn't it? Under anyway, he's former health secretary. It's interesting, when you're a former secretary of state and then you kind of are no longer, and then you're kind of gone for a few years, and you're brought back to become he's been tasked with reviewing Britain's worklessness. Some of your status is sort of elevated to this sort of greatness. They've brought in Alan Milburn. People are going, Alan? Who? Alan Milburn, yeah. Anyway, he's a reasonable chap. He was liked mostly across the party. He's been looking at worklessness in Britain. Let's have a listen to him.
What is shameful, to use your word, is that, as we've uncovered in the course of this review, for every £25 that we spend keeping young people on benefits, we spend only £1 helping them get into work through employment support.
So the taxpayer is spending 25 times as much money...
25 quid, 25 times as much, exactly right.
...on benefits for young people...
Correct.
...than helping them get the skills they need to get into work.
Correct.
The male voice was Alan Milburn, for those who are confused. There it is. The other was somebody called Laura. So that's what he's looking into. I mean, look, we had this in from Jane, because this is sort of the other side of it, who says the new hinge and bracket.
Oh, yes. Yes.
My grandson, I don't know what the hinge and bracket references to.
Well, yes.
Do you know?
I do, yes. Well, it references to, and Christian will attest to
I know who
this.
the hinge and bracket were.
See, I didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
Until somebody suggested, I think it was Jeremy Carl that suggested that him and I were the hinge and bracket on breakfast. On
that's a very vague old cultural reference.
But they're saying that you're the new, I think you're the new
I'm the
hinge, and would I be the bracket? I don't know.
I don't mind being an old hinge. Or an old bracket, for that matter. Funny enough, I've got some brackets arriving from Amazon just this very day, because I'm doing my kids. So there you go, bracket. Just basic L-shaped. Anyway, my grandson has been looking for work since losing his job last summer, with over 100 applications, no replies. It's not easy. And that's the other side of the story. I was listening to something quite recently about how recruitment is almost a complete AI process now. So you've got particularly young people like Jane's grandson. You know, you're often phoning places and you don't ever talk to anybody. The initial interview process is a computer. I mean, how bizarre that we've got to that stage. And so you never really get to say, because you can't. Oh, one more thing. No, there's none of that. Thank you for calling. We have logged your application. We wish you luck in this process. Not Star Wars, for God's sake. This is somebody applying for a job. So it's quite tricky, and to not get I think it should almost be illegal to not get a reply.
Yeah, I think that's right. No, because people...
They talk about workers' rights, this government.
Absolutely.
Make employers reply to people.
Yeah, and look, we have... and I bemoan a lot of the time about HR departments... Because they're...
Like the Globe Theatre here. Does thou bemoan on this sunny day, kind sir?
But,
does.
HR is obviously very important for, I think, particular reasons, as the obvious.
Yes.
Inappropriate work behaviour. They should be absolutely there to support workers, but they overreach. Well, when we talk about HR, they seem to be overinflated, and a lot of people working in HR. But then when you have people that apply for jobs that don't get replies at all,
yes,
I mean that is HR. I mean they should be processing applications, saying what status that application is in, whether it's being looked at, whether it got through the first stage, you're on to the second stage, here's the date for the interview, I'm afraid you've not been successful, but here's feedback. I think feedback is really important, which nobody gets at all these days. And this is at a time where young people, because of social media, because of technology and AI and all the rest of it, you hear stories alongside when you apply for a job not getting a reply. These are people also at the same time don't want to answer the phone.
Yes.
They have a fear of talking to somebody over the phone, because if the phone rings, the anxiety kicks in, thinking that they might be in trouble, because everything is done through texting, messaging, online.
Somebody told me that, I don't know if this is true, that young people don't know where the answer the phone button is on their own phone.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard, yes. Yeah.
It goes off. It's like, what is this?
Yep.
What is this sorcery that's taking place in my hand? It's actually ringing and making a perpetual noise. What is this? Oh, somebody wants to talk to me. There could be that too. Stay with us, Charlie. Loads more still to come. Lines open 0344 499 1000. Drop us a voice note on the weather. Top tips for staying cool, particularly if my other half was stuck in traffic yesterday. There was a horrendous accident on the A12, and it was like 4 hours of sitting there. She had her mum, 2 kids and a dog in the car, but along with thousands of other drivers. Now, of course, you have an understanding that something terrible's happened up the road, but nonetheless, I mean, if you're in a car without any aircon, I don't know what you do in that situation. People were playing football on the road because it went on for that long.
Well, that's extraordinary. I mean, I don't drive.
It wasn't the Arsenal coach or anything.
Well, I don't drive, not since the incident. But
that sounds like a hinge and bracket line. I don't drive anymore, not since the incident. Yes, they were very kind at the DVLA in their letter. It's just a lifetime ban. Forever. We're going to take a short pause. 23 minutes after 6. It's Ian Collins in for Jezza on Talk.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Morning, 6:25. This in from a man who says, good morning, Ian. Worklessness Britain, thanks to our utterly incompetent government. We certainly are. I think there's a sort of the area of lethargy as well. I think we're in that, as distinct from bone idleness, and there's a slightly nuanced difference there. I just wonder whether that whole feeling of, is it worth it? You know, is it worth it for the money I'm going to get? Never going to buy a house. I wouldn't be able to put a deposit down on a car, let alone a house. The bills are off the scale. Energy, food costs, filling up your car. Is it worth it? I wonder if that's in 50 years' time, sociology students and others will look back at this and say, oh, yeah, that was the era where people just gave up.
I think you're totally right, because you hear so often, particularly at this time, and you know, at breakfast and alarm clock Britain, you'll hear people that call up and they'll say, look, I'm working 2 or 3 jobs. I'm working all the hours that God sends because that's my mentality. That's because I want to strive. I want to do well. I want to make ends meet. I want to put food on the table for me and my family. I'm a doer. I'm a get up. You know, we can't bemoan the situation. We'll focus on all the positives in life and things that we can do rather than what we can't do. But that is such a juxtaposition to, you're right, the mentality that sometimes appears in society now, which is just, well, I won't bother. Because you're right, if I can't save for a deposit to get a house, well, what's the point of working? I may as well just claim benefits.
This comes from Laney, who says, morning, Ian. I live in a static caravan. Any tips for staying cool appreciated? It's hotter than Satan's armpit in here. Which, for those who studied biology will know, it is in a very hot place, Satan's armpit. It's, yeah, we've done the frog dissecting, miss. Can we move on to Satan's armpit, please? Oh, it's so hot. Lane says it was 46 degrees yesterday in the static caravan. I don't know what you do about that.
Well, it would have been cooler outside. Outside, because it was only outside. It was only 30. It was only 30 outside, I think.
Yeah, there's
so
our top tip, Lane. Go outside.
What are you doing stuck inside, cooking yourself?
It's lovely. You can just go outside. I tell you what, stick a steak on. Don't turn the oven on. Just put a steak in a pan. Go outside. When you come back
Crack an egg in
all of that, yes. Yeah, we tried that once when we were about 18 because it was a really hot summer and the roof of my mate's car, somebody had said, you know, it was so hot you couldn't touch it, you know, that thing. If you haven't been in a car, I had that yesterday, your steering wheel is so hot, you start to drive and you go, I can't actually drive this thing. My steering wheel is hotter than Satan's other armpit, you know, it's terrible. So we decided to try the egg thing and didn't work, but it did cost him a 200 quid paint job on the roof of his car. I mean, it absolutely knackered the thing. It was like this thing wasn't going to fry for 1 second. The idea that it was 100 degrees was not true. So yeah, that's our top tip, Lane. Go outside.
Go outside. Where it's cooler.
Yeah, but you can't sleep outside.
Call me old-fashioned, but just read the room, read the temperature.
Yes, that's why Charlie did physics at school. This from Dan in Kent. Morning, Ian and Charlie. We need the tax threshold pushed up from 12 to 15 and 1k on top every year to get to 20. Yeah, if you're on £20,000 or less, I mean, most people you shouldn't be paying tax. Shouldn't be paying tax. I was always slightly miffed in the last when everything was going on with austerity and this whole argument that is regularly thrown at the Tories, although now Reform seem to be the chief recipients of this kind of thing, is that, you know, the Tories are looking after the rich. And in fact, I know it was the coalition, but George Osborne, it was the greatest tax break for people ever, up to 12,500 quid before you pay any tax at all. That never really... Even the Tories didn't mention it. I used to see Osborne on an interview and they say, but the top... He never said, George, just say the bit about the tax relief for those earning nothing. Just do that bit. But we should, notionally at least, 20,000, you shouldn't be paying any tax under 20 grand.
I think that's absolutely right, because we need to move away from the idea that work doesn't pay.
Yeah.
Work should pay. You should work hard and keep as much money that you earn. That should be the mentality. That's what gets people up in the morning. That's what makes people entrepreneurs, innovators, and that's what makes people go and be the drivers and the strivers in this country. But if you're taxed at a higher rate, which we have been for far too long, taxes need to be cut. Then you're obviously not going to be interested in getting up and doing a hard day's shift.
Lane is back on the text again.
Oh, right. A response. A retort from Lane. I'm so sorry in advance.
Yes. I'm so sorry in advance. That was a very subservient position from you, John. I'm sorry. All right, I'll take it, whatever I said. It says, I'm working from home, so I have to be in the static caravan. Charlie's not buying this because he's already probably... Can you work outside, can't you?
I'm sure there must be...
No, but the trouble is, if you're outside, you've got the sunshine. Whereas if you're... And the heat. If you're inside, you haven't got the sunshine, but you've got the heat. So,
I mean...
Could you... here's my tip. Could you go to a public building?
There
you go.
Is there anywhere nearby this caravan that you could just...
You're literally asking me. I don't know.
No, I'm asking you through... I'm asking Elaine through you.
Lady.
Through you.
Just buy one coffee in a coffee shop and sit there all day.
There must be an answer. You can't... even if you're working from home in the caravan, there must be a means of being able to work outside of the caravan or outside somewhere more cooler. No? Is she back again? Is this a third? Am I in trouble again?
No,
is she bemoaning
Christian,
me?
our producer, has just said it's static. You can't even drive to the coast. It's like, if it wasn't a static caravan, you could just hook it to the car, couldn't you, and go, I'm off. You haven't even got that option, frankly. This comes in from Bill in Romney, who says, a tip for older people. I don't know why this is... shouldn't be funny at all. It's not even funny. Wrap a wet towel around Wrap a wet towel around you and drink plenty of water is Bill's top tip for keeping cool. Now, the problem with that is, firstly, I'm going to question, where do you put the wet towel? Do you put it around all of you? Around your head? Do you sort of go mummy-bound with the towel? Do you leave a gap for drinking? And, of course, the cold towel becomes a hot towel quite quickly, doesn't it?
Well, Bill...
It's just the image of, about 10,000 Brits walking around, towelled up. It's like, what's happening?
I've got visions of Bill wearing towels around... but I imagine it'd be around your head, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Because the head is the hottest... I think the hottest part of the body is actually your head. I think it's the top of the head, isn't it, or the back of the head?
I think it is, yes.
Because that's where the heat, obviously... Then
we don't have to be that specific.
Oh, right.
But we'll go with the head.
My physics.
Yeah,
I'm giving my physics
the
again.
Side. Is it the hippocampus area, perchance? It might be. It's true. And Christian was just saying that his wife, who I know well, by the way, and I only mention this because this is a woman of efficiency, washed the towels yesterday. And I washed the towel yesterday. They're dry in 10 minutes. Stuck it on the line. I thought I was on a kind of hidden camera show. I thought, what's happened to my towel? It's dry. I only just put it out. I went in and made a cup of tea, came out, it was dry. I was waiting for Stephen Mulhern to show up with a camera crew going, we got the old towel trick, didn't we? No, it was just that hot, wasn't it? That everything. So if you stuck one on your head, I think working on the same basis, your wet towel would soon become a very dry towel.
Yes.
So Bill in Romsey, I mean, it's a suggestion, but I don't know if it's...
It might not be the total answer, but drinking lots of water, I think, was his other suggestion, which is very important.
Which is always good.
Which is always good. But I'm keen for... I'm sorry to go back. I'm keen for Elaine to actually get out of the caravan and...
Laney.
Who?
Laney.
What did I
You
call
said
her?
Elaine. Which arguably is probably a late,
well, it's a bit
known
like,
as late.
It's a bit like my singing. I get all the right notes just in all the wrong order.
In the wrong order, yeah.
So with the spelling of her name.
Charlie can't even be invited to the Talk karaoke nights, by the way. It's that bad, isn't it?
I know.
Yeah.
It's... there are karaoke nights. I've not been invited at all.
Oh, you're not? Yeah, we
Where's HR? We were talking about that.
Stephen says, caravan heat issues. A portable gazebo. Shade and outside.
Well, that could work. Yes.
You could get, if you go down to like, you know, a B&Q or those kind of places.
Because Wi-Fi extends to outside
gazebos,
of the,
yes.
to outside of a caravan. If
You
there's
don't
a
see
gazebo
that on the
next
back
to
of your
it.
modem, do you? Will not work under gazebo-based conditions. Never seen it. Let's get a word on a more serious note, very quickly. A word from Lord Matthew Elliott. Now, Lord Matthew Elliott is the founder of the Taxpayers Alliance, and this whole thing that it's just dominating the headlines on a daily basis about taxation, income, outgoings in the welfare department, people not working. The whole thing is a flipping mess. Lord Matthew Elliott.
According to Table 5 of the appendix to the OBR's report, the Treasury will collect £331 billion in income tax in the current financial year. But according to Table 4.6, we will spend £333 billion on welfare, a sum which is almost as big as the combined GDP of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. In other words, we are now spending more to facilitate people not working than we raise an income tax from people working.
That's a nonsense, of course. It's completely unsustainable. Your thoughts on that? 0344 499 1000. You leave a voice note there as well. Does Britain have a worklessness crisis? Top tips for keeping cool, particularly Lainey in the static caravan, who's absolutely melting over there in Essex. Doesn't know what to do. She's gazebo. Maybe I think perhaps the coffee shop. You know, go to or a public building with aircon might be an idea.
No, I agree. Or Bill's suggestion,
just cover yourself in wet towels.
Cover yourself in wet towels.
Go mummy bound. That could be the answer. 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is...
I've gone again. Christian, why did I agree to do this anymore? I'm clearly surplus to requirements. I can't hold a sentence together. Cliff. Can we have a bit more music, Mark? Cliff in Berkshire says a wet towel and lots of water. Sounds like waterboarding to me. It really does, doesn't it? Cliff.
Cliff.
We don't want to kill anybody off. I'm writing to you on behalf of my Auntie Beryl, who tried your method. Unfortunately, Beryl only survived an hour. Drowned in her own towel. But it was the coolest she'd ever been. Somewhere she'd have wanted to go. Doctor said they'd never seen a body temperature like that. Cliff, thank you. You've just done it for me. Oh my goodness. I was saying to Charlie during the break. Sorry, I look like I've probably been waterboarded myself. We were saying during the break, it's just what's fascinating about, and I would go as far as say this radio station, Talk, and the way, like, we didn't know we were going to talk about any of this at 6 o'clock this morning. And thank you to Lainey, who just happened to drop a very innocent concern, saying, you know, what do I do in my caravan, which is 46 degrees? Now, Charlie offered the not unreasonable,
the obvious solution, I think,
which was to run it through us again.
Well, I
Charlie.
just thought it was 46 degrees inside. I mean, I've been watching the news, and they've only told us that the temperature, the highs of about 30, 32. So if it's 46 inside, just go outside. I think that's. Is that not sensible? Is that not reasonable?
That does sound sensible. Amanda says, hot caravan lady. How about a tower oscillating fan? You can't go wrong with an oscillator. You know those big... I've got one. I slept next to one yesterday.
Beg pardon?
I slept... Sorry, it's no way to describe your other half, is it, really? I slept next to a tower oscillating fan.
I've no fans. I've no fans to wake up next to me. That's the problem.
Poor Charlie.
No fans at all.
Really?
Only Christian, I think.
You need to check out OnlyFans, because I'm telling you... Someone had to say it, because there's a lot. I wonder how much traffic they've had this weekend without realising it. Wow, all these people. Imagine the shock if you just wanted a fan. Oh, love, I've seen something terrible on the internet.
I turned up this morning well prepared to talk about all the hard-hitting,
all the hard news, and we're talking about fans. You see, your oscillating fan is a beautiful bit of kit, of course, because it does a beautiful fool you moment when you think the fan's not working. Give it a second, it's coming back. Because once it re-oscillates and turns towards you, it's a beautiful mechanism. Zzz, that way, and then it hits you, and it's fantastic. But I turned off the oscillating feature and just went for straight fanage.
Which was straight what, sorry?
Fanage.
Not something I'm familiar with. If I can say that.
I think you can.
A quarter to second.
This is obviously award-winning stuff here, isn't it? Ruth says, about staying cool, you could always get ice poles. Good point. Put them in the freezer, take them out. Stick them under your armpits.
Is that for safety?
It's almost like we've got somebody from the Carry On team writing this show today. Stick them under your armpits, and if like me, stick them under your boobs. Let them defrost, and you then put them back in the freezer. Have a great morning. This is what we need.
Well, this is...
I don't know, I mean, without getting into the anatomical credentials of Ruth, or anybody else for that matter, but I suppose you'd have to be built in a certain way. So let's take men rather than, you know, I'm sitting here as a bloke, rather than focusing on women. So if a man has man boobs, then stick them under your man boobs, I think is the suggestion from Ruth. Or under your armpit. If you're walking around the place, you've got 2 ice pops under your arms, a towel on your head.
You're having a jolly good time. By the sounds of things.
The gazebo on top of you. The oscillating fan in the corner. You're doing all right. You're doing all right.
It's the heat, isn't it?
It is the heat.
It has a funny effect on it.
Max says, I think you will put the wet towel around your neck. That's where tennis players put their ice packs.
They do that, yes.
They do.
But they do put the towels over their head as well. I've seen them
It's not illegal not to. So stop! There isn't a set routine in that respect. Yes. So, feet in a bucket of water, says Vincent. Along with the aforementioned. Yeah, you could do that. This one on
official advice for the nation.
Well, I think if you employed all of those things, you would, if nothing else, be cool.
Be entertained. If nothing else.
I mean, there might be a few curtain twitchers around. What's he doing at number 74? What's going on? He's got his feet in a bucket. What's he doing with that ice pop?
Under his man boobs.
Under his man boobs as well. Michael says, I'm now 75. I've seen many hot summers. It's simply do not go out in the midday sun. Close the curtains. Avoid alcohol and hot women, says Michael. I've no idea why the last piece of advice came there, other than the fact that your temperature could rise if you were it would be the sort of Sid James moment in Carry On Nurse, where the blood pressure machine explodes when Barbara Windsor walks in the room, which is a lovely moment. Jane says, I've got my fan out. Well, that's good, because everybody should. We're doing a quick break here, are we? Yeah, we're going to do a quick break. But don't worry, because we've got more fan news, cool down news, and there's also some actually serious news out there as well. If you want to voice note us your top tips for staying cool, I think we've done them all, frankly. Are there any more left? Find out next on Talk.
Current affairs, international news, letting criminals off while sending... Oi! Oi! You shut up! I'm trying to record something. Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of breaking news, challenging views. I don't give a flying damn about international law. I think people will viscerally reject this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is 10 to 7. This comes from Dave in South Gloucestershire, who says, "Morning, Ian and Charlie. We have a situation where more and more people, especially young people, are not working through choice or because of some minor issue that the government have allowed and deemed to be a disability. So the welfare bill is growing day by day. Add to that the crippling taxes on businesses and the impact of net zero, where jobs are being lost, less young people are being employed and businesses are closing. I think we are in a doom loop, and this government appears not to have the ability, the courage or the willingness to take steps necessary to stop it." Let's get a voice note on worklessness from Shagger.
Good morning, Ian. Shagger here, truck driver, working like a dog, living like a dog, paying £320 a week in tax. My wages have gone down, not up, just to feed these disgusting creatures what don't want to work. And they rub it in your face as well. So here, that's how happy I am. All the best, pal. Nice show. Wait for Jens to get back so I can give him a rooster booster as well. All right, pal. Cheers. Good health. Ta-da.
See you, Shagger. Thank you very much indeed for that. Working like a dog, living like a dog, he said. I mean, there is that feeling, isn't there, when you look at your wage slip at the end of the week or however someone's paid, and you think, hang on, how can that be the case? And then what you have got left, you're going to be absolutely royally stung for the audacity of trying to buy food or fill up your car.
No, you're absolutely right. And look, reform, I think we've got to talk about them because they were in the press yesterday, coming out with an announcement that they would say that they won't tax overtime pay. So people that are working all of the hours that God sends, if they're working more hours than what they should do, or they choose to work more hours because they want to earn more money, but their policy is that any overtime that you work, you will keep the money of that overtime. It won't be taxed at all. Anyone earning under 75k, which is a good thing. That should incentivize people to go and work like Shagger.
Sorry, the Laney message we had earlier has just spawned this incredible sort of one-stop advice shop for ladies statico. One here says, "Is there no tree that Laney can sit under? Or just stay in the shower?" Well, there is that option, of course. If you're working from home, it does rather depend. You don't want to take your laptop in there, do you? No. I've just noticed, I think it was Vincent that first said, "Put your feet in a bucket of water, brackets cold." Just in case there was any...
As opposed to boiling, you know, as opposed to sort of... Yes.
Well, there's a good point, actually, that Mark has just made, and that is that when you're hot, you drink hot tea.
Do you?
Well, you don't have, no, you don't have to. But hot tea is... what's the word? Having your thirst quenched.
Some people
What's the word?
Some people have iced tea. Or
yeah, you can have iced tea. Yes.
Or,
I don't get the iced coffee people. Very strange breed. If I want a coffee, I want it to taste like a flipping coffee.
Well, yes, yeah.
Not a glass of juice that I might be... Do you know, it used to drive me mad as a kid when you went to someone's house. You go in and your mum and dad, and you're there, you know, me and my sister turn up, you know, and they'd say to my mum and dad, "Oh, cup of tea or coffee?" They'd look at us and go, "Orange juice," and I think, "No, I want a cup of tea." I was only 6. I was just into the idea of why do I not get offered a cup of tea?
Yes. Well, you want to be.
What kind of ageism is this?
You want to be part of the setup, obviously. Well, what the adults drink, you're absolutely right. But I still think, I mean, well, anyway, a tree outside of Laney's caravan.
Yes.
You never know. I keep thinking of that. What's that song? Don't sit under the apple tree, or with anyone else but me.
With anyone else but Laney.
Yeah. There you go.
Andrew in Norwich, is that the one you were talking about, Christian? Andrew in Norwich says, reference head towels, make sure it's an old towel. I did it with a new...
What difference?
I'll tell you the difference. I did it with an old green towel. I looked like the Incredible Hulk.
What?
Because the colour ran from the towel.
What difference?
So poor old Andrew suddenly comes out looking like a lettuce. Or the Incredible Hulk.
Or the Incredible Hulk. What difference?
The Green Giant. I mean, you don't need that on a bank holiday, do you? I mean, people would point.
Laney, take note of all of this, please.
Yes,
because we don't...
I hope you've got a sensible moleskin, Laney, that you're noting this down.
In fact, on the back of all of this, Ian, the only thing I can say to Laney is probably stay inside.
Yes, I think
46 degrees sounds a lot better than some of the suggestions.
Laney, you've got a right old list to get through here this morning.
But this is this is so important because the weather, obviously us Brits, we talk about the weather all the time, and when we do have a hot week and a hot spell, it gets us going. So this is important.
This is important. Christine says, Laney can always find a tree to sit under. Mind you, a tree fell down in our car park last night. So she's probably safer in the caravan. Well, not if the tree hits the caravan, of course, you know.
No one is safe.
We're all doomed. Good point here from Anonymous. Before sitting in front of one's oscillating fan, undress and spray yourself with water. Guaranteed coolness.
Well,
I mean, undress, I think, is a given if you're going to... I mean, the idea that you'd get dressed to sit in front of your fan. Is it fan time? Where's my coat?
I'm not going to spray myself fully dressed, then.
Well, no. Disaster,
I know what I'm doing after this show.
Sandra says, I'm drying towels outside in this heat. Must bake them, and they'll be hard when using. Do not take your dog out in this heat. Or if you do, wrap a towel around. No, I'm just adding that extra point. Actually, a very good point, because only this morning, the towel that I dried on the line yesterday, I lobbed back into the bathroom, and this morning it was like drying my face with sandpaper. It's not a good dry.
No. Well,
so dry it is.
Was that a new towel?
Rough as a... No, it was oldish. It was as dry as an old boot, that towel. I might have to chuck it out later. Charlie, it's been informative and Your political acumen is not lost in this hour. Thank you to Charlie Rose. Back tonight, by the way, at 7, right here on Talk. We're going to take the news headlines. Ben Habib, among others, with us next.
I've got some breaking news here. The Crowborough Army Training Camp could hold male asylum seekers all the way until 2030. After the Home Office claimed it would only be for 12 months. Not much ambition involved in that, is there, in terms of solving the migrant crisis?
Absolutely, and the way that the Labour government gaslit the public when the migrants were first moved in there, saying, you know, you guys are absolutely being mad. Crowborough is a quiet, leafy town in East Sussex. These people, you can see, have been pushed to their absolute limit. They're not the types that you usually see protesting about this sort of thing. But that town has been absolutely desecrated.
You're ruining the country. Get Keir Starmer out. Look, England's flag. You're useless. Labour parties are useless.
I love our country. And one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British.
What Labour advisor thought she wasn't going to be heckled at a petrol station in Leeds? Do these politicians actually ever get out and understand what it's like for real working class people? I thought it was British to exercise a right to free speech. That's what Keith Stalin told Trump. That's what White Van Man was exercising yesterday to Richard III. Oh yes, I remember. We're not really allowed our right to free speech in case we criticise the government.
You can't blame people so many decades away from you for the chaos that has been caused by Labour.
This is cheap politics, isn't it, Syrian?
Well, it's stupid politics. I mean, who raised national insurance on part-time workers? Labour. Who's been the stupid people that have wandered down the road and increased taxes on businesses and on individuals? Labour.
A lot of people get very frustrated, especially when the government says, oh, free school meals, you know, for every kid, not just the kids who really need them, free bus passes, free this, free that. None of it's free. It's subsidised and paid for by the taxpayer. And we're in this constant situation where the government's answer to everything is tax us a bit more, take more of our money, and then give some more of it away generously. It's our sodding money they're giving away.
Yeah, exactly. And it's either someone else's money today, another taxpayer, or even worse, it's the money from our future selves. And we keep making this...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
And good morning. Yeah, welcome back. Here's Ian Collins in for Jezza. Welcome, UK, to one of the, well, potentially the hottest day of the year. Could get up to 35 degrees in some parts of the country. We have spent... by the way, I was going to apologise for the last hour. It was very juvenile and schoolboyish, wasn't it? But we ended up riffing on a theme of how to keep cool, which sort of descended into a cross between a Carry On movie and an episode of Benidorm. It had all the right ingredients, including Charlie Rowley. So, yes, immature it was. Fun, absolutely. We might put that last hour in for an award somewhere along the line. Listen, it might be a day off for you. For others, a day off is a day off every single day. The number of people in long-term unemployment is at its highest for a decade. So you've got just shy of 500,000 Brits who haven't worked for over a year. What is going on? There are lots of jobs out there. I'm not suggesting some people are not in a position where they can't work. We get that bit. 500,000. That doesn't include, of course, the other figure that's out there of disability payments, kids not working as well. We learn that taxpayers are spending 25 times more on welfare for young people than on initiatives to get them into work. These are the findings of the former Government Health Secretary Alan Milburn. We learn that some parents are also stopping their kids taking on an apprenticeship because it means that parents will lose money in benefits once their kid is no longer in education. Elsewhere, the Prime Minister has waded into that horrific case of the judge who refused to jail 3 teenagers for rape. It's just a most disturbing story. Starmer has called it appalling, which hardly touches the sides, frankly. Turns out, by the way, the judge has a bit of form in this respect of not jailing those found guilty of serious sexual offences. And something we haven't really yet got into, Angela Rayner pressing Keir Starmer to introduce a full under-16s social media ban following mounting concerns over children's mental health. Do you allow your kid to browse the often disturbing delights of Instagram, Facebook, X or Snapchat? Details on the way. But just on that point, by the way, and no one is really making this point. I get it, OK? Most social media platforms are really for adults, and even by adult standards. You can see all manner of, slightly disturbing stuff that just suddenly pops up on you. There you are, merrily reading the news, watching some of those good old 1990s cat videos and all the rest of it, and up pops a beheading on your next. You think, well, hang on a sec, I was watching kittens just playing with wool. Now there's a fella having his head chopped off in Afghanistan or something. And then that's followed by, I don't know, kids bullying kids and someone getting in a horrendous beating. Then there's a sex video. That's not for kids. My problem with it was twofold, actually. If you start legislating on what can and cannot be on social media, then you start to run a risk. We've already got that thing, haven't we, where people can go to look for a news story and it will say, this news story is not available in your country. And you think, it's a news story. So there's that as well. Overarchingly, by the way, I think the problem isn't social media, it's just the internet. I mean, if you were a kid who wanted to see some grim stuff, you wouldn't say, I better go on Facebook first. You'd just go on the internet. You'd search it that way. So it's a kind of fool's errand in many respects. 0344 499 1000. There's a lot of big stories out there. Ben Habib is with us as well, the leader of Advance UK. Morning to you, Ben.
Morning, Ian.
Happy bank... Do we say happy bank holiday? I don't know. We do now. It's going to be an absolute belter out there today. 35 degrees. How are you coping in the weather?
Well, I've been fine. I'm enjoying it. I have got a fan. I didn't have to douse myself in spraying of water or whatever you and Charlie were suggesting. Yes. But I've got a fan in my bedroom over the windows, and it's rather nice.
Yes, all right. I did exactly that. Just employ a bit of common sense. And we don't get nice weather that often. So obviously there's people out there who will tell us this is because we're dying because of climate change.
Well, I mean, it took the climate sort of extremists about 5 seconds. The minute the heat wave broke, they were out in their numbers saying how this was going to be an absolute disaster. They just loved jumping on that bandwagon. I mean, as children, we used to just love it, didn't we, when the heat broke, when we eventually got a summer? It's been so cold recently, hasn't it, Ian? It's been cold.
It's been horrible. And I was just thinking, covering for Jezza here on The Breakfast Show, when I did it, about 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, something like that. The mornings were dark. I had a coat on. Today, none of that. I mean, it was just beautiful. It was quite nice. We don't get it very often, so wrap it up. And I've no idea why suddenly every time it's a sunny or a hot day, it's transposed to be a climate crisis.
I know. Can we have more of these crises then?
Yeah, indeed. Since when? What level? Where are we, or where are these people on the intellectual scale that they will simply, as you say, in 5 seconds they leapt up? There's proof. Look, it's a sunny day. Well, we've always had sunny days, And as we get towards summer, I'm hoping we'll have more sunny days, Ben.
Yeah, let's hope.
Listen, we've got loads of other stories here, lots to get through. This business of worklessness Britain, there's many factors to this. There's obviously young people not working. There's the growing amount of people who are claiming some form of disability. I'll always put the caveat in because doubtless there's some people who just don't get it. Nobody is begrudging paying our taxes to help people who are disabled, who seriously need assistance. That's part of a civilised system. We get that. What we question, Ben, are the sheer numbers involved in these stories.
The numbers are completely out of control. I think you touched on the long-term unemployed being 500,000, but actually we have 8 million people in this country on universal credit, 4 million of whom are not even looking for a job, don't even enter the unemployment statistics, because unemployment statistics only include those who are looking for a job. 4 million people on benefits, not even looking for a job. And then, of course, in amongst that lot, we've got 1.5 million foreigners who shouldn't even really be in this country if they're on benefits. We should only have people in this country from abroad if they're here on a visa and contributing to the British economy. And no, we've got a completely broken system, a welfare system that's out of control, that almost makes benefits a career choice, and a tax system that makes it very, very difficult to keep in your back pocket that which you legitimately earn, and an economy that's flatlining or decreasing in real terms, so that people are finding it increasingly hard to make ends meet. You couldn't have a more perfect economic disaster, frankly.
Yeah, and we have a government that does seem to be, I'm going to put this politely, lacking in understanding of what makes businesses grow, with the territory that you need to seed in order to develop. And, you know, Starmer made a big thing about growth is his #1 priority. You would never think that looking at some of the legislation out there.
No, absolutely. I mean, there are two functions. Two principal things you have to do for business in order to allow businesses to grow is you have to reduce regulations on them, certainly not increase them, and you need to make it worth businesses' while to make money. There has to be a return on capital available. But if you increase regulations dramatically the way we have in this country, including, of course, net zero, which is born out of this climate ridiculous extremism, and you make everything very expensive for business, you require them to comply with all sorts of restrictions which foreign countries abroad are not complying with, and selling their goods to us under free trade deals. You know, deindustrializing the UK to the benefit of third world countries and other manufacturing countries like China and so on. If you do all of that, and then you tax British businesses as well, to the nth degree, you're going to end up with a lack of economic activity. I thought it was really interesting the other day that Reeves was saying that she was going to burden the fossil fuel companies with even more taxes in order to reduce the cost of living for those, you know, for consumers. But they're already paying a 78% corporation tax rate.
Correct.
And, you know, it's absurd. They're not going to be able to make the kinds of returns that they need to make to extract fossil fuel from the North Sea. They're going to go elsewhere. So this is the damage we're doing to the UK PLC. Too highly regulated, too overtaxed, including, of course, taxing the working and middle classes as well, small, medium-sized businesses, sole traders. They're all being taxed to the nth degree, highly regulated, and we're killing British business.
Yeah. Well, of course, the problem is you're up against the heady intellects of people like Ed Miliband, and these people genuinely believe, it seems. I mean, if they don't genuinely believe it, it's a greater crime. You almost hope they do. But they genuinely seem to believe that they are saving the planet with all of this. And, you know, we are going to die unless they put these initiatives in. But even China doesn't think in this kind of curious, bizarre, statist way.
No, not at all. I mean, China is very, very clear on its aims for its people. It recognizes it's got, 1.2 billion people, most of whom, you know, below the sort of at or below the poverty line, and it needs to raise its people up. And so it's doing everything it can to produce cheap resources. China is going around the globe soaking up resources for the benefit of its own people. We, on the other hand, are turning our back on domestically available resources, making our energy incredibly expensive and making ourselves reliant on places like Qatar for gas, the US for gas, Norway for gas, when we've got, you know, masses of gas ourselves. No, the whole thing is an experiment in the destruction of the United Kingdom.
Let's have a listen here to Lord Matthew Elliott, because this feeds in more than a little appropriately, Ben, to this wider issue of taxation and where money goes. And it comes back to the welfare system, not just the ineptitude, but the criminal goings-on in the amount of money that is spent in one area versus the amount of money that actually comes in from taxation. Lord Matthew Elliott, founder of the Taxpayers Alliance. Let's have a listen.
According to Table 5 of the appendix to the OBR's report, the Treasury will collect £331 billion in income tax in the current financial year. But according to Table 4.6, we will spend £333 billion on welfare, a sum which is almost as big as the combined GDP of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. In other words, we are now spending more to facilitate people not working through raising income tax from people working.
I mean, this is unsustainable, Ben. I mean, that's just a fact, right? Something has to give. That simply, quite literally, cannot carry on.
It is unsustainable. And as hard as it might be for politicians to bite this bullet, what they've got to do is slash welfare. We've got to slash universal credit on long-term unemployed. We've got to make it worthwhile for people to go into jobs by lowering their taxes, which we would then be able to afford having cut welfare state. We've also got to be tough on pensions. I know people go on and on about the triple lock, and is that something we need to get rid of? Actually, before we even look at the triple lock, I don't know if people are aware, but we pay pensions to people who've never paid into the NIC pot. There used to be a connection between having worked in this country, I think you used to get the maximum state pension if you'd worked for 35 years, and having paid into the NIC pot, you then get your state pension. But actually, for the last few years, people who have been on benefits, never having worked, never having paid into the NIC pot, are now getting pensions on retirement. And people of retirement age who are on benefits get a top-up payment in order to make them come up to the same level as they would get if they had a full state pension. Yep. We are literally making ourselves a welfare state with a small private sector which somehow is meant to cope with everything that comes along. And listening to Andy Burnham talking about how he's going to tax wealth, how he's going to tax people who are making money not by labor, but by actually investing, it just makes you hold your head in your hands and think, what are they trying to do? How are businesses going to be able to invest if they know that the capital they invest is going to be taxed by people like Andy Burnham? There's a rejection of capitalism in this country. There's a complete swing towards welfare, full control of the populace by the state, a state interventionist approach to the economy, a turning of the state's back on those who work, and a turning on the state's back, and this is really important, on those who invest in the country. And you know, we saw immigration figures come down the other day. Do you remember that? Yeah. I think they were down to 171,000, and Shabana Mahmood was making a big thing of that. Actually, a significant reason for net immigration having come down was because we're losing more and more British citizens going abroad. And we're not just losing the richest in our society now. We're losing middle-income earners who can't make ends meet in the United Kingdom. They're leaving. We are literally denuding ourselves of our ability to be prosperous. We're denuding ourselves deliberately.
Give us a word, Ben, on Advance UK. What is happening with your party? Are they? Are you expanding? Are there certain places you're not standing in? What's the state of play? We hear there's a lot of noise around reform and even restore. And I'm thinking of that by-election a few weeks away. Understandably, people say, well, what about Advance UK? You're going to be standing in that seat. What's the method that you're employing as you move forward?
So we're not standing in that seat, and we have endorsed Restore's candidate in that seat. The right-hand side, the so-called right-hand side of British politics, has become slightly overcrowded since Restore Britain launched. And there was definitely a need. There was a crying out need for a political party I have to say so-called right, because I don't really believe in left and right. But, you know, there was a crying out need for a pro-British party to the right of reform, because reform had effectively become Tory Mark II. I mean, I don't really know what reform is. It's all over the place. But there was a massive gap to the right-hand side of reform. And Advance UK filled that gap. We were the serious principal party for pro-British politics. But with the emergence of Restore Britain, that landscape's become quite crowded, and Restore's got some significant momentum. So we're reflecting on precisely how it is that we go about our business for the benefit of the country, without simply being a political party for the purposes of existing as a political party.
Got it. And going forward then, does that mean that we will see Advance UK candidates standing in by-elections?
Well, we're just reviewing our entire sort of raison d'etre at the moment, frankly.
So that would put you. Would that mean you're more of a pressure group, or a kind of an agitator? I say that not as a pejorative. In the conversation, are you likely to be looking more to Rupert Lowe and saying there's something we could do together here?
Well, I think that what we've got to do is recognise what's required in order to make sure we get a properly pro-British government in 2029. And I think that's possible if there's one such party like Restore Britain to the right of reform. Just looking at this by-election, for example, people are sort of up in arms that Restore isn't standing aside for reform because it's polling at 7%, Reform's polling at 40%, and if you combine those 40 and 7 together, they beat Labour. But what's really critical is that Restore does stand. It's really critical that Reform wakes up to the threat of something to its right so that it develops a coherent political philosophy. And then if there are 2 or 3 parties on the right-hand side of British politics come 2028, an accommodation can be reached between them in order to ensure that a thumping majority is won in 2029.
When you say, now that's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people listening to this will maybe take from that Advance would disappear, would it? And close down in favour of supporting Restore? Because many can't imagine you and Rupert Lowe getting back into bed with Nigel Farage.
I've never been in bed with him, thank goodness.
But metaphorically speaking, of course. Even with a fan.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Need a couple of those.
The thought of that just filled me with horror. But no, the key is to deliver a pro-British government that has real policies that put this country first. Reform hasn't got there yet. Reform doesn't even have a political philosophy. It's all over the place. 1 minute it's against mass deportations, the next minute it's in favour. 1 minute it denounces transgender ideology, the next minute it's talking about putting men who identify as women into women's prisons. It's all over the place. An entity like Advance or an entity like Restore could actually either replace Reform, which would be fine, or it can force Reform into the position that Reform should already have been in. And that's the key. And what I wouldn't want Advance to do is detract from the ability to create that pro-British government. Advance was only ever set up because the country needed it. And it's not going to behave as an organisation for its own interests. It will only ever behave as an organisation with the country's interests in mind. So we're just looking at the landscape and making sure that we create a scenario where the chances of a strong, capable pro-British government are maximised.
So is this then, are you explicitly saying then, Ben, that you will merge with Restore? Have those conversations been had?
No, there are no conversations of merger with Restore, and I think that's highly unlikely. But there are many ways by which we can go about our business to not detract from the landscape, not to make the landscape more confused, but to help clarify the landscape and help those who are in the landscape to actually do what's necessary.
Because there's a lot of people on the right who are, would actually quite like that to happen. That's why I ask.
Yeah, well, I mean, we did have merger talks, as you probably know, Ian, back in January. Early February, there was a suggestion we might merge. January, there were some discussions. But, you know, that's certainly not in my mind at the moment. There are some issues with Restore that I have some issues with Restore myself. For example, the party's owned by Rupert Lowe. It's a private limited company with one share, which Rupert Lowe owns. And I think that creates issues, frankly, going forward. But that doesn't mean that Advance should therefore enter the landscape, stay in the landscape at any cost. What we've got to do is try and chart this very difficult path towards a serious, principled, pro-British government. That's all I'm interested in.
Ben, lovely to have you on with us. Have a great day. Enjoy the sunshine, with or without a fan. That's Ben Habib, leader of Advance UK, with us on the programme. Your thoughts on what you heard there, 0344 499 1000, particularly about that merging of parties. I mean, I would extrapolate from that at some point there will be a merger. But I don't imagine that Restore and Advance would be enthusiastic about trying to tap up Reform on that, and I don't think Reform would be enthusiastic either. Your thoughts, 0344 499 1000. One of the issues we've been talking about is worklessness across the board in so many different ways. Apprenticeships is one of those issues. Let's get a voice note from Kate.
Good morning, Ian, and of course, Ben. I shall try again, seeing the last hour kind of descended into towel-related hilarity regarding apprenticeships and people of teenage years not working. My son's just qualified a 3-year apprenticeship in metal fabrication and welding, fully qualified, no debt, more importantly. However, it took me, as a dedicated mum, probably over a year of persistent phone calls, mithering, email to different companies. It's really hard to find a company to take an apprentice on. It should be made much easier. This notion of, oh, just get an apprenticeship is not as easy as it sounds. You don't just turn up and get one. That's the thing that needs to change. Anyway, thanks, bye.
Mr. Speaker, I know many members across the House will find these facts to be incredible. To that, I can only say they are right. It beggars belief that throughout the whole timeline of events, officials in the Foreign Office saw fit to withhold this information from the most senior ministers in our system in government.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk. Welcome to the home of common sense. It's Ian Collins in for Jezza. It's a bank holiday Monday. It's already in the early 20s out there. It's only 7:30 in the morning, for goodness sake. Could get up to about 35. We have been exploring in the first hour, which did, by the way, descend into sort of juvenile hilarity. It was quite fun, and, you know, you don't always want to bog yourself down with the more serious news. We talked about fans and how fannage is the only way forward. Paul says fannage sounds like a town in Dorset. Really does, doesn't it? One comes in here from Natasha. He says, what's all the fuss about with the weather? I remember sitting in our blow-up swimming pool with the kids about 20 years ago, and the temperature was 38 degrees. There's always been hot summers or hot parts of what we never really get. Like in Australia, if it's, I don't know, in June, you could, well, it wouldn't be June in Australia, but you take the point. At the beginning of summer, you could plan a barbecue for the end of summer. So I'm having one in 8 weeks, so book it in. You could never do that here, because in 8 weeks' time, it could be torrential rain and thunderstorms. So when we get it, we take it, don't we? We take it. And it is pretty darn hot. It's hotter than a lot of places that are meant to be perpetually hot. 35 degrees could be the top temperature, but wherever you are. Is there anywhere it's cold, by the way? Because we did ask this question last week, and somebody called us from, where was it? Somewhere in Scotland, and said they just put the heating on. It was that chilly. Anyone suffering a bit of that? I hope not. Yeah, let us know if you're cold. We've got loads of tips for keeping cool. So many tips for keeping cool. And the point on tea, by the way, because that came up, didn't it, as whether tea is the right answer. We had... I can't find it now. Anyway, we had one on... I'll come back to it because there was all sorts of advice in there as well. Keep them coming in. Oh, yes, here it is. From Tony, Stoke-on-Trent. Morning, Ian. Happy bank holiday. To keep cool, people should drink tea. Yes. First, it's a hot drink, but tea warms the inner body up, causing your body to trigger the sweat response. Tea really helps you to keep cool. As for towels, I never dry a towel on the washing line, always in a tumble dryer. This keeps them soft. And to get your rock-hard towel back to a nice soft towel, put it in the tumble dryer with a couple of ice cubes as well. Oh, no, that's an instruction too far for me. I'm going to lob it back in there, but it's true, if you stick towels on the line this time of year and it's really hot, they will end up looking more like sandpaper than a nice soft towel. Let's move to this story, because this isn't going away, and you'd be forgiven for thinking, what the heck is happening in Iran? Donald Trump says the US won't rush into a peace deal with Iran. This is as Tehran agrees to give up uranium and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. I cannot keep up with what is happening with the Strait of Hormuz. Is it open? Is it closed? Can some stuff get through? No stuff? Do you need a special ticket? Let's talk to Sean Bell, former fighter pilot, now military analyst. Morning to you, Sean. Always good to have you on with us. I think everybody's confused on this. It's almost... You'd be forgiven for thinking this Iran thing had kind of just stopped, almost.
Yeah, good morning, Ian. Happy bank holiday. Yeah, I mean, ever since the ceasefire was put in place in early April, we've been in this sort of stagnation area where neither side seems to be able to make any progress. Both the Iranians have blocked the Strait of Hormuz and the Americans put a blockade in place. And all the agreements, the positive what's happening at the moment, it does feel as if there are talks going on. The Pakistanis are mediating between America and Iran. The reality is we don't know the progress of that. There's lots of reports about the areas that are being agreed, and lots of that detail sounds really positive. I mean, it talks about opening the Strait of Hormuz. It's talking about sanctions relief. It's talking about potentially easing some of the frozen assets of Iran. But the harsh reality is the bottom line from America was always that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and also they should give up all the enriched uranium. Now, so far, none of the details around that have been released. It does look like they're heading towards a sort of 60-day ceasefire and one single page of a memo of understanding, which won't actually solve anything, but might get the Strait of Hormuz open, therefore ease the energy crisis, but means that it might be weeks, months, or even years away before Iran actually agrees any of the detail around the nuclear program.
And Sean, this is a long way off the original idea, which was that this would last a couple of weeks. The entirety of the Iranian regime would be removed. They would start rebuilding. This would become a country more in tune with what the 1979 intake would look for, if that makes sense. It was going to completely change, and you would have this secular, progressive, forward-thinking Iran back in play. And none of that has really happened.
No, I do think there's been a degree of naivety around this. I mean, you'll remember the sort of context that President Trump went into Venezuela, plucked out Maduro in a sort of very, very efficient military operation, and therefore thought, you remember before the war actually started, there was an uprising or lots of unrest in Iran with lots of the Iranian people getting slaughtered by their own government. And of course, what Trump, I think, thought at the time was that if he went in there, killed the Ayatollah and some of the regime, that there'd be an uprising and he'd be fated as a hero. The trouble is, day one, day two of that 28th of February initial strike did take out the Ayatollah plus a load of his acolytes. But of course, the leadership is like a hydra, and the son, Mustafa Khamenei, has taken over. He's been badly disfigured by all accounts, watched many of his family killed. He's therefore almost certainly more angry and dangerous than his father was. The regime is still intact. It is still strong. The people are not being liberated. And of course, the mistake then was to continue with a military campaign, which America did, which when I was in the military, we war gamed this, and it always ended the same way, with the conventional military getting smashed, but the Iranians controlling the Strait of Hormuz.
Indeed. And I mean, the Iranians they kind of had that Hormuz card to play all along in a way. Did they not realise it? Did they? I mean, it's become incredibly effective. I appreciate now that America have a dog in the race, but I mean, it's such a vital waterway in that respect. I'm surprised Iran didn't make more of it to start with.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a question that's been asked a few times, actually. And I think the answer was, if you go back before the start of the war, Iran was basically had massive sanctions on it. It had a great deal of problems with its economy. It was a pariah state. And therefore, if it was to proactively start to try to close the Strait of Hormuz, that might have triggered a war that it wouldn't have wanted. Once that war was imposed on it, all of a sudden, it had been incredibly well prepared. It's been preparing for 35 years for this moment, with all of its missiles and its patrol boats and mines and everything. And now, where Strait of Hormuz wasn't an issue before this war, now it is. Iran has leverage. And I think one of the struggles for America here is that Trump kept talking in triumphalist terms. We're going to get Iran to capitulate. They're going to surrender. Far from it. They come into these negotiations with a lot of leverage, and that's uncomfortable for America.
Indeed. Sean, great to have you on. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate that. Sean Bell, always an informed view. Former fighter pilot, now military analyst with us on the programme. 25 to 8. Let's get a voice note. This is on the right uniting, advance and restore. Spoke to Ben Habib a little earlier. Here's a voice note from Jane.
Morning, Ian. Just going back to what Ben said about restore and not standing down their candidate. There's a lot of egos going on here, and I think Rupert Lowe, he needs to grow a pair and stand down in this by-election. Or when Andy Burnham gets into number 10, I hope that all these Restore voters realise that they have let this man into number 10 and their country is in the gutter now. It'll be in the sewage by the time Andy Burnham gets into number 10. That's my words of advice on that subject.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Talk. Good morning. Welcome back. The home of common sense. So much to get through. This one from Zoe in Lancashire. Now, this will mean nothing to many of you who've just tuned in. But in the first hour, we're just randomly talking about the weather. We're Brits, you talk about the weather and stuff. And it's obviously going to be very hot. And Lainey got in touch to say she lives in a static caravan and it was like 48 degrees or something inside the caravan. What advice? Well, I didn't know it was going to open up the floodgates with so much advice. From the serious to the slightly more amusing. Zoe in Lancashire says, caravan lady, as Lainey has now become known, if she's near the beach, she could dig a hole and bury herself up to the neck with a wet towel on her head. The sand will keep her cool. Make sure you aren't expecting visitors, though, as it might take you a while to climb out. It's a great point. And of course, the other problem, Zoe, I love the advice, by the way, is that Lainey is working from home, and I'm going to deduce from that there's a laptop involved in the process. And how do you bury yourself as well? I mean, you can only go so far, can't you? You can really only go up to the top of your chest, leaving your arms out, or one arm out at least. It's a time-consuming process, I can tell you that much. 0344 499 1000. Mick says, why are you guys freaking out about 93-degree temperatures? That's old money, of course. In Las Vegas, Nevada, it's 98 in a few weeks, 110. What is that, 45? You English! Yeah, I mean, that is hot. Even people in Las Vegas would go, it's hot. But I get it. Dave says, I think actually most people are embracing it. But if you're a country that's not set up, and the obvious one is aircon. Now, if you're in Las Vegas, there will hardly be a building you could go in that wouldn't have aircon. It'd be all over the place, everywhere, including homes, of course. Dave says, just heard that consideration is being given to give families on benefits even more money, not to discourage their youngsters from taking apprenticeships. Does this government have no other answer to any issue other than throwing money at it? I mean, this was an extraordinary story. It's you'll see it the front page of the Times this morning, that families on benefits could be paid hundreds of pounds a month to stop them, as Dave just said, from discouraging their teenage kids from taking on apprenticeships, because ministers are considering grants in cases where those aged 16 and 17 can cause their parents to lose money because they've left education. So the benefits the parents get continue while the kid's in education. So the kid goes, Mum, I've got a great apprenticeship. It's a brilliant one. It's going to be the start of a new career. And the mum goes, no, you don't. No, we're going to lose 20 quid a month, or whatever it happens to be. That's an outrage. That should not be where we're at. 0344 499 1000. Let's speak with Mike Neville, retired Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector, friend of the programme. Morning to you, Mike.
Good morning, Ian.
Look, you see, you're suited, and I don't know if you've got aircon there or a fan on the go, but it's already warm and it's only 20 to 8.
I'm in Wales, Ian. There's no aircon in Wales.
No, it doesn't exist.
On my brother's farm. I'm going to feed the horses when I finish with you.
Fantastic. Not in a suit, I hope. Let's have a look at this story, because we saw this sort of break last week of the judge that not only didn't jail 3 teenage rapists, but almost commended them in some kind of way, that, you know, you guys are all right, really, you don't belong in jail. That, I'm slightly paraphrasing there, but it was that kind of vibe to it. There didn't seem to be much condemnation. Of course, the poor there are 2 victims here, are left with often irreparable damage for what they went through. Today, Keir Starmer has said he's appalled by the case. That's his take on it. We're just going to play you a little clip here. Darren Jones, who's the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, he broke down in tears, essentially, on live TV when asked about this decision. Let's have a listen.
As a minister, I'm not allowed to get ahead of the Attorney General's decision, but those girls deserve justice. As do their families, both for them, but also for other girls that are put in that position. And quite frankly, other boys need to know that they can't behave in that way and get away with it.
You are here as a minister, but I can actually tell from listening to you as a dad, I think you found that quite hard to watch and to listen to.
It was very hard to watch, because no parent wants their daughter to be in those circumstances. And you don't want a society in which girls are growing up in those circumstances.
And he was referring to this clip. Have a listen.
The words hit like a rock, straight in my face. He almost made it seem as if what the boys did was not okay. But it was okay in the eyes of the law, because they were still children.
And what did that mean to you?
It meant that, why did I sit and put myself through the pain of going to court, going through a trial, reliving everything because of evidence and watching it all happen again? It sort of gave me a sense of, what's the point? Like, what was the point in putting me through that just to say that it's fine?
That is the voice of a victim. Words read by an actor, but the actual words. Mike, I mean, we have been here before when we've seen bizarre decisions from judges, and I think, as I said at the beginning, what compounds this one is that the judge seemed to have almost no condemnation.
Yeah, it's absolutely bizarre, isn't it, Ian? The whole situation here. And I think it's part of the wider liberal establishment. This is a terrible case, but it's like many other cases. You have, the minister sort of breaking into tears there, but you have Lammy saying that, who's the Deputy Prime Minister, there shouldn't be any prison for people under 18. You've got the Greens saying there should be no prisons at all. And the sentencing guidelines that this judge has used will have been set by Conservative and Labour governments. But the whole thing does seem perverse in the sense I've looked at the sentencing guidelines, and basically for the lowest, a rape is a very, very serious crime, and as such it carries life imprisonment as a maximum sentence. And what it does say is that the lowest sentence that should be considered is 4 years. Now, and then it says if you're a youth, then it can be halved or even 2/3, but that still means 16 months in prison, and this hasn't been imposed. And then you look at the factors in this case, that it wasn't one offence, it was two. There was a group of boys involved in it. There was a weapon involved at one point. It was filmed. They then went to court and called the victims liars. So that all these aggravating factors add up. But what he seems to have done, he doesn't take any of those into account. It's just like, oh, you're low IQ, you've not been in much trouble before, so they have been in trouble before, all those things. But what gets me is that then when they said, oh, we're having an intensive people move. So they'll say, well, that's against my human rights because we're entitled to go where we want. And I think this is another indication of some form of two-tier justice because they were from traveller families. And there's all these things going on. But I just don't think the political class really wants these youngsters to go to jail. And it's a bit of a smokescreen what they're saying right now.
Indeed, and we know this particular judge has a bit of form in this respect, Mike. There's been other cases of serious sexual offences where the judge hasn't jailed somebody. You do sort of wonder. I mean, those that are caught, with child pornography on their phone, for example, almost never get jailed now. I mean, you've really got to be in a different stratosphere of what you've got on your device. But you look at, they don't make Crown Court, really. They're sort of dealt with by magistrates' courts now, and it's a tap on the wrist and, 30 hours community service and a 50 quid fine. I mean, how did we get into that territory?
Well, where we are in is there's a real disconnect, isn't there, between what the public, your listeners and viewers will think is a reasonable sentence for wicked crimes. There's a real disconnect between what we think and what the establishment thinks, and that really causes problems. And as 100 years ago, Lord Justice Hewitt said, justice hasn't just got to be done, it's got to be seen to be done. And they're very wise words, because what the public are seeing at the moment is that justice isn't being done, that so many violent criminals and very dishonest and wicked criminals are just allowed to get away with it. And this is where society reaches a tipping point where people say, well, why should I obey the rules? Most of us don't obey the law because we're frightened of going to prison. We just think, well, we'll fit in with society. It's wrong to rape people. It's wrong to steal things because you're impacting on other people. But when it comes to the point that, well, that person steals all the time and there's no consequences to this, other people are going to start thinking, well, I'll do the same. And this is a real bad situation for the society to be in.
Indeed, and I don't know whether it gets any better, because the front page of the Daily Mail, soft justice makes police caretakers for criminals. Police will be caretakers in community for criminals under Labour's soft justice reforms, a police leader has warned. This is Brian Booth, Deputy National Chair of the Police Federation, a man I know quite well. He doesn't stick his head above the parapet if he's not genuinely concerned about something, and I think he speaks for a lot of officers.
What you have here, Ian, is you have people, 10, 20, 30,000 people who are like these, what they call hyper-prolific criminals, these people who commit hundreds and hundreds of crimes. They've got hundreds of convictions, for example, for theft. Now, we know the police solve 1% of theft, so anybody who's got 100 convictions has probably done 10,000 crimes. And what you've got is a government now, and the Tories were going to do it as well, Labour, you don't get a year, you don't get a year sentence, and any sentence you get, you only serve 40% of it. So it's like one of those bizarre games where the police officers are chasing criminals, and there are lots of brave and hard-working officers out there. They're chasing burglars, robbers, thieves, rapists, whatever. They catch them, they do their job, they take them to the court, and then within months they're out again. You know, because it's all a deception, isn't it? They say, oh, you'll get, you'll go to prison for 4 years. Well, it's not really 4 years at all, is it?
No.
It's like 1 year. In northern terms, it'd be called a swizz. You know, it's an absolute trick on society, and we need to get back to honesty. But at some point, we've got to change this disconnect between what the public expects and what the establishment are doing.
Indeed. Mike, thank you, as ever. Mike Neville, retired Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector, with us on the programme. Your thoughts on that? 0344 499 1000. You drop us a voice note there as well. And voice note us on all the big issues, whether it's about the amalgamation of the right, restore and advance. We spoke to Ben Habib, not quite ruling it out. But can you imagine that extending to reform? I think there'd be a right hullabaloo if that was... I don't think it would get to that stage. Even by 2029, do people bury the hatchet, as it were? And on the weather as well, top tips to keep cool. We did ask, by the way, if it's cold anywhere. And Gary on the Isle of Skye says, I'm out walking the dogs with a rain jacket on and a beanie hat and gloves. Gloves as well. This is Talk.
Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Talk. Welcome back. The home of common sense. 0344 499 1000. Huey says, I'm sick of these Farage reform anti-democratics saying that Rupert should stand down and it's all his fault. If Andy Pandy becomes Prime Minister, it's a democracy for goodness sake, and people are free to stand and vote for their candidate. That is true. And I would say that about any party, but I don't blame other parties from floating the idea. The Conservatives are the obvious. They can't stand a candidate down, can they? The subservient move from Badenoch to reform would be huge, and I don't think she can afford that. This one from Neo says, the best tip I had on handling extreme heat was during the day, close all doors and windows, also close blinds if you have, if not the curtains. It works. Yeah, that does kind of work. To a degree. Let's speak with Joe Wheeler, meteorologist for Square Raindrop. Morning to you, Joe.
Good morning.
It's fair to say... Sorry?
I was going to say, it's not often you can top up your tan before 8 o'clock.
It's crazy, isn't it? We were just looking, at 7:30 this morning. It was 23 degrees outside this building. It's it is. There's no way around it. It's genuinely very hot today.
It is. And we're likely to break some records today, which at the moment stands at 32.8 for May. And that record was set back in 1944. So it's had a while to break it. Hasn't done it so far. But yesterday, I think we managed 31.5 at Heathrow and Kew Gardens. There were about 15 sites in London where we topped 30 degrees Celsius. And that in and of itself is really quite unusual. We're all aware, for some reason, that the UK HSA has issued an amber warning for heat.
Yes.
Now, that body actually is supposed to be for hospitals and nursing homes. It's not really for public delectation. But since they mentioned it, they usually work from the 1st of June till the 30th of September. They don't expect this kind of heat at this time of year, but have it we have. And hopefully everybody's enjoying it and enjoying it safely. It looks like staying with us, certainly for the foreseeable future, into the south tomorrow. Meanwhile, parts of the country like Scotland and Northern Ireland, who've had a fairly dismal time of it so far. Hated that story about the poor chap doing his dog walking in the rain. Anyway, yes, things should brighten up and warm up a little bit there today. But it's really these records we're going after. 32.8. The Met Office seem confident that we're going to break that record today, which make it the hottest ever day in May. You can't say May Day because that's confusing. We're also, you mentioned it's warm this morning. You're absolutely right. But how warm was it overnight? Official figures aren't yet in. But if anywhere in the UK maintained a temperature of 20 degrees Celsius, that would make it a tropical night. And we haven't had one of those. So that would be a new record in and of itself.
So a tropical... say that again, Joe. What does it have to get to be a tropical night? I like this.
It has to not fall any lower than 20 degrees Celsius.
Right, and that makes it a tropical night. Yeah, I want to have a tropical night.
Yep. And then we're also online for temperatures surpassing 33.3. Now, that would make it warmer than the warmest ever bank holiday, which actually happened to be in August of 2019, and that was recorded at Heathrow. So it's all to play for today, and the headline is 34. There's a 30% chance of seeing 35, so that would just break all records. So if you're doing nothing else today, just sit and watch the temperatures go by.
Tell me this. I've never understood, and I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation, why Heathrow is ever a marker for temperatures. Bearing in mind, if you stand on runway 2 with 300 jumbo jets taking off, then it's always hot there, isn't it? Even December.
Well, yes, you think so. Apparently, these weather stations are very carefully located and monitored, which is why sometimes in your garden, you might find that you've had 38 degrees and they say, oh, well, that's not allowed because it has to be at one of the official sites. And when it's measured like that, then somebody has to go out and test all the instrumentation to make sure that that's OK. And I'm quite sure that, if you've got weather stations close to airports of any description, that RAF or public ones, that those things are monitored, because obviously that would be silly if you're going to stick it on the end of the runway.
Oh, so you don't just stick a thermometer up the business end of a jumbo jet's engine, do you?
No, that would just be too silly.
I can see how that would be suspicious.
Yeah, and of course you've got to remember that whenever we do measure temperature, it's in the shade.
Yeah.
So as I say, if you've got 38 degrees in your garden, you go, this must be the hottest place in the country. Possibly not, because that temperature should have been made in, should have been measured in the shade. But then again, when you're thinking about going out, and you go, oh, it's only 25, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then realise that when you're in the sunshine, it's actually a lot hotter than that.
I know you're a meteorologist and not a doctor, Joe, but we've been talking a lot about cooling down and the best way to do it. We've had some very insightful and often imaginative suggestions, some very serious, often others like, bury yourself in sand and stick a wet towel on your head isn't necessarily that practical. But, generally speaking, I suppose common sense usually prevails, but it's very easy to forget or not be in a place where you can employ common sense.
I think that's one of the most difficult things. It's a bank holiday weekend, half term is upon us. And so this is a time when traditionally families go away or people go day tripping. Now, of course, any of these things, you're risking a traffic jam. And, a family of 4 stuck in a car with limited amounts of water, limited amounts of fresh air. and inability to move. That to me is like a holiday hell, just the worst thing in the world. Obviously, if you're at home, stay hydrated. Make sure that you drink plenty of water, squash, whatever it may be. I heard the recommendation about shutting the curtains. That does actually work, and I did the same myself the other day. Shut the curtains early in the day, so that stopped the sun coming in. The room was dark and cool. And the other things, take tips and hints from hot countries. Drink a warm cup of tea, because that will help you cool down, bizarrely. And likewise, maybe tonight's the night for a curry, because those very strong spices also help your body to cool.
I love it. Good point, Joe. Thank you very much indeed. Is it curry night tonight? Tropical night, curry night. We can mix the whole thing. Joe Wheeler, meteorologist for Square Raindrop. Thank you to her. 0344 499 1000. Howard says, please remind people not to walk dogs on hot pavements. It's true, their paws aren't so good. Somebody told me about a week ago, I think it was, that dogs, evolution will eventually prevail, and dogs will have fingers and feet like human beings. So you can just lob a pair of little loafers on them. I think that's about 4,500 years away, though. Stand by, more calls. Great comment from you on the way. Some brilliant conversations to come. Let's get the news now. It's 8 o'clock.
My fellow Americans, let me begin by congratulating the team at NASA and our brave astronauts on the successful launch of Artemis 2. It was quite something. It will be traveling further than any manned rocket has ever flown and will very substantially pass the moon, go around it, and come back home from a distance that has never been done before. It's amazing.
Due to that suit being pressurized and expanded, as well as the umbilicals being connected.
We are now falling to the moon rather than rising away from Earth. It is an amazing milestone.
We are standing by for the Integrity crew aboard Orion to surpass the Apollo 13 record.
Integrity, we're now resuming operational audio contact.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, good morning, UK. Welcome to Bank Holiday. Yeah, heatwave Bank Holiday, possibly tropical night Bank Holiday. In most part, not the Isle of Skye, by the way, where it's still raining and a bit chilly as well, but it could get up to 35 degrees today. You're listening to Ian Collins in for Jezza. An awful lot to get through. By the way, while you're enjoying a day off, there are many, well, this is the norm. Every day is a day off, and we're talking about the number of people on long-term unemployment. It's the highest for a decade. just shy of 500,000 Brits who haven't worked in over a year. What is going on? How can that even be possible? And of course, that stat sits in a long line of other disturbing stats that are welfare related. It comes at the same time that we hear today that taxpayers are spending 25 times more on welfare for young people than actually getting them in to work. These are the findings of the former government minister, Alan Milburn. We also learn that some parents, and this is just absolutely staggering, are stopping their kids from taking on apprenticeships because if they do, it means the parent loses benefits once the kid is no longer in education. I mean, that should be criminal, frankly, to stop your kid pursuing a career. Elsewhere, the Prime Minister has waded into the horrific case of the judge who refused to jail 3 teenagers for rape. Starmer called it appalling. Turns out the judge has form in this area of not jailing people found guilty of serious sexual offences. And Angela Rayner continues to press Keir Starmer to introduce a full under-16 social media ban following mounting concerns about kids' mental health. If you're one of those people that allow your children to do the Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat thing, give us the detail behind that, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. The issue, if you want to ban it, you end up banning loads of other stuff as well that really shouldn't be banned. But on top of that, if a kid wants to look for some dark stuff on the internet, you go to the internet. You don't need social media to facilitate that search. Details on the way. Everything you need to know and all the breaking news. 0344 499 1000. We are talking as well about how to keep cool. I like this one from Chris because we obviously fans. I reckon if you went to a shop to buy a fan, they'd say sold out, mate. Because it happens, doesn't it? Even air conditioning units sell out, and they're not that cheap. A decent one. Chris says, last year when it got hot, I'd stand in front of the fan in my boxers to cool off. I decided to upgrade to a Dyson bladeless this year after a minor tackle-related disagreement with the old one. Turns out some lessons are learnt the hard way and painfully. I mean, how close could you have been? I don't want to get into too much detail, Chris, but you loved that fan, didn't you? That's all I'm going to say. 0344 499 1000. Fan of the fan, yeah. You can drop us a voice note on those tips as well. The right-leaning parties joining together. We had Ben Habib with us a little earlier. That story, by the way, is not going away. Let's get to work with Nigel Evans, big friend of the show, of course, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons. Nigel, good morning to you.
Happy Bank Holiday Monday.
Indeed. Are you in a place that is hot right now?
I am actually, yeah. I'm in... I don't know if you know, but I live with former Tory MP Colonel Bob Stewart. Bob took me in after the general election. He lives in Bromley.
I know Bob. I didn't know you lived with Bob. What is this? This is a sitcom waiting to happen, surely.
Absolutely. And it should be called Squatting with Colonel Bob. I mean, the things we got up to over the past 2 years, you wouldn't believe, Ian.
No, I would believe, Nigel. That's the problem. I really would believe.
And that's without a Dyson bladeless.
Indeed. Well, we've got some great tips here. Well, your neck of the woods is going to be really hot today, so you're looking at least the early 30s, Nigel, so you and Bob can get out on the loungers.
Yeah. The sight of it, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We should put that on pay-per-view.
Indeed, or just go to the pub, which is often the nicest way to do these things. There's a lot to talk. Just give us your view, Nigel, if you would. This constant story that's not going away about right-leaning parties merging together. It doesn't really include the Conservatives, but we're talking about Restore, Reform, Advance UK. We had Ben Habib with us a little earlier, not really ruling out that him and Restore might get together. I don't imagine those two would find much sympathy with the plight from Nigel Farage, to look at it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Rupert Lowe hates Nigel Farage, and I'm sure we all know the reasons why. And I don't think there's going to be a deal done there. So what is the result of that? Well, looking at the opinion polls in Makerfield, they say there's a 3% gap between Labour and Reform. And it looks as if Restore Britain is going to get 7%. So it could mean that those who are to the right, by voting Restore instead of Reform, will put Andy Burnham into Parliament and also into number 10 Downing Street by the looks of it. Yeah. But if you look back, Ian, at the 2024 general election. There is no two ways that when deals were trying to be struck with Nigel Farage, with the Conservative Party, and we were saying, listen, if you vote Reform, you're unlikely to win the seat, but you are likely to lose the seat from the Conservatives to Labour. That's exactly what happened. In my own seat, I lost by just over 800 votes. Reform scored 8,000 votes and came third. And we ended up with a Labour MP both in my seat and in the next door seat as well. So the reality is that's where we are. But I don't think any political party of the right at this moment in time is ready to do any deals whatsoever.
There was a sense, I mean, this could still happen, that the Conservatives will, that horrible phrase, bounce back. With all the rows going on, Kemi Badenoch will look like the sane and sensible adult in the room. Her star seems to be rising somewhat in terms of her performances at PMQs and the like. But it doesn't seem to be translating to opinion polls and local elections.
No, not in Makerfield. That's for absolutely certain. I spoke to the Tory candidate there the other day, and I just said, what you've got to do is in Dover, because I fought the Pontypridd by-election in 1989, and there wasn't a chance that the Tories were ever going to win that. But all I needed to do was, just keep on the path for the 4 weeks of the of a campaign, and that the opinion polls show the Tories scoring about 2%. Meanwhile, north of the border, there's going to be another by-election in Aberdeen when Stephen Flynn, the former SNP leader in Westminster, resigned because he's now in the Scottish Parliament. And it looks as if the Tories are going to do much, much better then. But the reality is, Ian, you're going back to a common sense thing that says, well, really, if everybody on the right coalesce behind the person that was ahead, then we could possibly stop Labour and win one of those seats. But the reality is, and Kemi said it herself, is that actually Reform do not have Conservative policies. Some of them are to the left, some of them appear to be to the right, but they are their own distinct policies. They're not Tory light, and the Tories are not Reform light either. Yeah. So the reality is that you have at the head of all these political parties people who are not prepared to do deals. And if Restore Britain decides to carry on fighting this campaign, then you will see the next morning that it could put Andy Burnham into Parliament. I mean, the more interesting question for me, Ian, because I was walking past Downing Street yesterday and I just thought that if Burnham does get elected, then later that night, a phone call will take place between Andy Burnham and Keir Starmer. Yeah. And the phone call will be somewhat similar to a hitman and the victim having a chat about how do you want to be taken out? Particularly, do you want me to do it like overnight? Yeah. How do you want me to take you out of 10 Downing Street?
Well, I was also wondering that. Could Starmer cut a deal with him and say, right, I know you're coming for me, but to slightly continue the hitman analogy, I know you're coming for me, Andy, but can you give me another year? How do you think that will go down?
Like a bucket of sick. No, it's just simply not going to happen. Andy is coming into this Makerfield by-election after he said he would stick as the mayor of Manchester for a full term, so he's flip-flopped on that. And the only reason he's doing it is to get the keys of number 10. The King of the North is coming down to London in order to become Prime Minister. I've never seen a by-election like this. All by-elections sort of send signals as to what's likely to happen at the next general election. This one is completely unique in that what we're looking at is a small group of people in the north of England who have been, I got to say, ignored by political parties of every complexion over centuries. Yeah. All of a sudden, the eyes of Britain are upon them. And the good people of Makerfield, because my seat was just north of there, are going to be given the choice and the chance of deciding whether Andy Burnham will be the next Prime Minister, or if, for whatever reason, Burnham doesn't win, then all of a sudden, Starmer will see him being somewhat more safer in Downing Street. He's already a lame duck, but the lame duck could carry on maybe until the next general election, because there again, opinion polls show that the only person who then may be in the battle to get the keys from number 10 of Keir will be Wes Streeting, and all the opinion polls show that Wes could actually lose to Keir Starmer. I mean, what a kick to your own confidence.
Yeah, I mean,
being at meeting and knowing that you're going to lose to the man who has been the most unpopular prime minister since records began.
So secretly, Keir Starmer must be hoping that Reform win that by-election.
Deep down, listen, if he wants to carry on being prime minister, and we know he does, all we don't know is why he wants to carry on being prime minister.
True.
Then yes, in his secret moments, he must hope that Reform are going to win that seat.
I mean, it's an extraordinary situation that we've arrived in, and I've never understood perceptions and reality, because perception has a habit of becoming reality, of course, in politics. We saw it in 2024. Keir Starmer got into office. I'm scratching my head thinking, how did that happen? Well, yeah, because Tories, and others were fed up with the stuff. I understand that you might have been fed up. I don't know, as a Conservative, why someone would say, right, I don't like the party anymore, I'm going to vote for Labour. That, to me, is weird. How does that happen?
No, it didn't really happen that way, though, Ian, because what happened in a ton of seats, even though the Reform candidates at the general election didn't lift a finger, in my own seat, the first time I saw the Reform candidate was on the night of the count. And in all those seats, they got roughly 7,000, 8,000 or 9,000 votes. Then in every seat where there was a Tory MP at least, you saw the reduction in the number of people who turned out to vote. So in my own case, the people who stayed at home, who couldn't be asked to vote for anybody, they cost me my seat as well. So only 33.7% of those who voted actually voted Labour. They got a third of the votes, they got 2/3 of the seats. That is the reality. So he was already, he says he's got this great majority and I've got a mandate. No, you've got a great majority, you've got no mandate.
Yeah. What about Brexit in this by-election that's coming up? How much of a part is that likely to play? Again, this was a Brexit supporting seat. You might imagine it would be, just something that would mean you're toast as a pro EU candidate. Andy Burnham isn't just pro, he's quite evangelical about it. He's trying to sort of tame it down a little bit. Is that going to be a factor, do you think?
Well, for Andy, the best thing about the Brexit question is not to ask it. It's as simple as that, because we know where his heart lies. But his head is overruling his heart, because he knows that the Makerfield constituents voted about 2/3 of them to leave the European Union. Andy is now looking in both directions at exactly the same time. He's got the Makerfield constituents, who he's got to win over first in order to become Member of Parliament to take on Keir Starmer. And then, to become Prime Minister, he's got to go and look at all his Labour MPs, the vast majority of whom would rejoin the European Union tomorrow on any demands by Brussels. And so he's basically looking in both directions. But it's going to be a tough one for Andy. But at the end of the day, he's got to really go with his constituents. And journalists up there, apparently the pack are living there, Ian, like in no other by-election, because, as I said, the outcome of this by-election is bigger than any by-election I have ever seen in the 50-odd years that I've been involved in politics.
It is the most exciting it's like a general election is about to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we know what Keir's up to as well. He's salami-slicing Britain back into the European Union through the back door.
Yep.
And I find that unforgivable, because the British people had their say in the referendum in 2016. They may not like it, and we know Keir tried to stop it when he was in opposition by asking for a second referendum, and then got a battering in the 2019 general election when Boris won with a majority over 80, saying, let's get Brexit done. It may not have been done in the best way possible, but nonetheless, I want to see Brexit made a great success. So Andy's got a lot of questions to answer. If he is going to carry on with the policy of salami slicing Britain back into the European Union through the back door without consulting people in another referendum, which by all accounts he doesn't want to do, because he knows he's just opening a wound that was particularly deep and nasty. 2016, 2019 was an absolutely appalling time in Parliament, when I saw members of Parliament who spoke about the importance of democracy trying to stop the outcome of the referendum, which was the largest vote that Britain had ever had. Ian, we all know what the Remainers said to people like me and people who live in Makerfield who voted Brexit. We didn't know what we were doing. We're a bit thick. That's what we were told.
Absolutely.
The reality is we wanted to leave the European Union for all the sorts of reasons why I don't want to go back in.
Listen, on that point, Nigel, have a great day. Say hi to Colonel Bob. Enjoy the sunshine and have a beer as well. Nigel Evans, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, with us here on Talk. And a reminder, Makerfield by-election, June 18th. I think I'm right in saying June 18th is the date for that. These are the other candidates on the list. Jake Austin, Liberal Democrats. Andy Burnham, Labour Party. Alan Howling, Lord Hope, the official monster raving loony party. Robert Kenyon, Reform UK. Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain. Peter Ward, Rejoin EU. And Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party. So that's how that stacks up. Coming up on 20 past 8, more from you on the way. You want to drop us a voice note on anything you've heard so far, 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This comes from Anonymous. Thank you, Sarah, who says, this is about keeping cool. Fill a hot water bottle with 3/4 full of cold water, then freeze. When frozen, apply to any part of one's anatomy. Well, you could do that for a bit, couldn't you? But a frozen water bottle is pretty darn cold. Even if it's hot, that's... But, of course, that is location dependent, I suppose you could reasonably say. In 1996, says Steve, the weather map at the same temperature as today, but remained green. Meanwhile, in 2026, weather maps look like burnt pizza. Fear-mongering alive and kicking in the UK. Also, the temperature sensors have been placed in some very strange positions like Heathrow. Felt the heat out there of those jets? But no, I question both of those things. I did speak once to the bloke that was partly responsible for the graphics in the weather. And he went, no, we've just got better graphics, mate. He said, back then we didn't have any graphics. We can make it look hot, we can make it look cold, we can put icicles on there. He was slightly bemused that he'd been dragged into a political argument. And Joe Wheeler, who we spoke to the meteorologist a little earlier, said that Heathrow, it's not literally on the runway up a jet engine. But hasn't it just by definition got to be a bit hotter if you're down Heathrow way? Just a little bit. 0344 499 1000. Jack Elsom is with us, political editor at The Sun. Morning to you, Jack.
Good morning, Ian. How you doing?
All right. Obviously, let's get the weather out the way because we are Brits and we'd be failing, frankly, and both lose our jobs if we didn't at least give a nod to the weather. It's going to be hot. You're in a hot place. How are you going to cool down?
I'm so hot. I mean, I'm actually going to do... It's bank holiday today, obviously, but I am working.
Yeah.
So I'm going to sort of be cooped up in my flat in London, which is just like the most muggy thing. I've got a nice balcony, actually, so I'm going to try and sit out there.
That could be worse, though. It could be worse.
It could be worse. I think I'm going to try and sit outside and work for as much as possible.
Yeah.
I want to sort of like dip my feet in something to make it cool, but I don't have like a big enough vehicle. So maybe I'll get like 2 ice buckets and plunge 1 foot into either one. But
that's a good
I don't know.
idea.
My girlfriend might dump me if she comes out. And
You think what? Jack's gone mad. He's got he's got knitting needles up his nose and his feet in ice buckets. You know, we don't know what's going on with him. There he was, an astute political editor, and now he's gone bonkers on a balcony.
Exactly.
You could of course come into work because we work in the same building where it's absolutely beautiful in here.
It's nice in there, isn't it? I have to say, I think this week I'm going to come into the news building because, I mean, Parliament, luckily Parliament's in recess, but it is just the worst building to work in any kind of heat wave. We've got no air conditioning.
Yeah.
We have 1 rickety fan in the office, which clapped out a few years ago. It's horrible sunlight comes in from all sides, so it's not very nice at all in there. And then,
you can see why people over the years got beheaded in that place, can't they? It was just sheer frustration, I think.
Well, yes, exactly. We have a few mice for good measure as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it's beautiful and ornate and it's gorgeous, and you remind yourself that you work in this amazing
It's a privilege,
place.
Ian. It's a
but
privilege.
when it's hot, boy, that place is absolutely hot.
Oh, it's like a greenhouse.
Indeed. Listen, let's look at a couple of stories here. There's a lot to look at, in fact. That argument that we've been talking about again today, we spoke to Ben Habib earlier about the sort of joining of the right. You speak to all of these characters. I can see Ben Habib and maybe Restore Britain, Rupert Lowe's party at some point kind of merging. I don't imagine that Nigel Farage would be that interested in getting into bed with those guys.
No way. I mean, it's all about personalities with the right, and there's no way that Kemi Badenoch, Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage are ever going to do some sort of deal just because of the history of them all. I mean, let's take Nigel Farage and Kemi Badenoch first of all. You know, Nigel Farage still feels incredibly burned by that deal he made with Boris Johnson back in 2019, in which he, thinks that Boris Johnson squandered that majority by not implementing Brexit properly, and also obviously increasing mass migration. But 2, Nigel doesn't think that he was actually ever properly thanked for that, and that Boris Johnson took all of the credit. And so I can't see, having been scarred by that he's going to want to do any sort of deals with Kemi Badenoch, at least not before an election anyway. Maybe you can talk about deals afterwards. And then in terms of Reform and Restore, clearly there is just so much bad blood there now. After Nigel Farage kicks Rupert Lowe out of the party, Zia Youssef reported him to the police and the rest of it, and so I just really cannot see any mending of fences between those two. The problem is, however, is that despite the fact that Reform are clearly leaps and bounds ahead in the polls, Rupert Lowe, who has done incredibly well from a standing start and with very little resources, apart from clearly big social media backing from the world's richest man, Elon Musk, but with little actually like campaign structure as far as we can see, does now have the potential to skim votes from Reform to the extent where they could lose this by-election. I mean, the Salvation poll that came out yesterday showed Labour at 43, Reform on 40, and Restore at 7. Now, that is clearly well within the margin of error for Restore to therefore forfeit the by-election for Reform. And so, clearly Nigel Farage is trying to desperately frame this as a 2-horse race. He is saying that only Reform or Labour can win, which is right. The question now is whether people who are giving pollsters information that they're going to vote Restore, whether they go, you know what, actually, I'd rather have Nigel Farage than Andy Burnham because clearly he's much more aligned to my views, or whether now politics has become so tribal that actually they go, you know what, sod it, I don't care. Rupert Lowe is my guy. Nigel Farage treated him appallingly, and therefore I'm going to vote for Restore Britain. And that is clearly what Nigel Farage does not want to happen.
What's interesting, when you speak to Restore supporters, they are very heavily invested in it. It has a sort of protest feeling as well as a political one, and I can't imagine many of those. But I mean, their hatred of reform is as good as their hatred of the Conservative Party.
Yeah, and also it's interesting to see how Nigel Farage's tactics are changing, because even in the past few months, if you asked him about Restore, he would basically wave you away, and his strategy was basically ignore them and hope that they would go away, treat them as sort of a weird social media aberration, and actually, you know, come election time, those people will come back into the reform fold. Now, what we saw at the weekend was for the first time him really addressing Restore Britain and saying in a social media post, a Restore Britain vote is a wasted vote. All it would do is open the door to Andy Burnham and a Labour victory. Now, the danger with this is that obviously the more airtime and attention you give to Restore, the danger is actually it backfires, and actually they do end up even surging even more. And so it's a very tricky position for Nigel Farage, because he hasn't actually so far really had that horrible predicament which other parties have found themselves in, which is facing on two fronts. You know, clearly Labour have got the Greens on one side, Reform on the other. Conservatives have got Labour on one side, Reform on the other. And Reform has sort of been that right-wing flank. But if you have a right-wing party outflanked on its right, and you sort of bleed votes to your right, then it's incredibly difficult. I mean, where does Nigel Farage go now? You know, does he try and, you know, match Rupert Lowe on sort of, you know, more deportations and the rest of it? I actually think that their policy platforms are pretty similar. With these two, it seems to come down really to personalities and politics. And in politics, personalities can cost you elections.
Yeah, absolutely right. And then, of course, you know, Andy Burnham's position, whilst it's obviously for Labour, it's game-changing, as every poll suggests that if it wasn't Andy Burnham, then Reform would probably take it. So there is a Burnham effect. His profile as the mayor of Greater Manchester is obviously a huge boost for him, but it's not without its problems, of course, because we know that he's very pro-EU, and he's previously said he'd go back in. He's now playing that down a little bit. That neck of the woods is not particularly EU-friendly, so he's still got a tightrope to walk as well.
And at some point, he's going to have to nail his colours to the mast. I don't think you can run to be Prime Minister and basically be so coy about where you stand in terms of national politics, because being mayor of a city, being a Labour mayor of Manchester is playing politics on easy mode. Right? I mean, like, he's always going to be popular up there. And he's had some minor successes with local infrastructure, and Manchester seems to be doing pretty well, which is totally fair enough. And, you know, there have been arguments about the extent to which Andy Burnham can claim credit for that. But, you know, by all accounts, Manchester seems to be doing quite well. I think the problem with him at the moment is that Labour MPs see him as that prince over the water. And if you speak to them, they go, oh, but just look how popular he is. Look how popular he is. Give him a year in number 10 and see how popular he is. I mean, that is where you have to deal with existential problems in this country.
Non-stop.
Immigration, welfare, crime. It is not just about spray painting a few trains up in Manchester. And, you know, as flippant as that sounds, but you do have to deal with real problems gripping this country. And it's going to be unpopular things, which the next Prime Minister is going to have to do if they want to put this country back on the right track. And so, you know, I do fear that Labour MPs who are putting so much stock and investment in Andy Burnham to ride to the rescue as their saviour might see that very, very quickly his popularity plunges if he has to take those difficult decisions that he ought to.
Indeed. I remember Boris Johnson experiencing exactly that, because he'd been the mayor of London twice, of course, and, you know, suddenly you're given the big job, and there's not even an equivalence, right? It's not like they're a bit similar. They're nothing like each other.
No, exactly. I mean, the Metro mayor, I think Andy Burnham's got a budget of about £3 billion. I mean, that is just a rounding error when it comes to sort of like national expenditure, which you have to deal with if you're First Lord of the Treasury Prime Minister. You know, it's just totally different kettle of fish, and they have very limited powers. It's more of a sort of a symbolic role. You know, there's lots of sort of boosterism that goes into it. Andy Burnham seems very good at that, in the same way, like you said, that Boris Johnson was very good at that. But when you come into the black door of Downing Street and actually have your hands on the levers of power, everything changes, and it is just so different. And you can quickly see Andy Burnham coming up against exactly the same problems that Keir Starmer is coming up against, whether it's small boats crossings, whether it's that enormous welfare bill, whether it's rampant crime.
Yeah.
And it's those sort of things which can make a prime minister very unpopular very quickly. And for Nigel Farage or Kemi Badenoch, at the moment, they have the luxury of opposition.
Yeah.
And so they can quickly punch Andy Burnham's bruises. And what we could see is Nigel Farage, Kemi Badenoch, essentially sort of capitalising on another poor Labour government. And that is the issue here. But also, I'll make one point, Ian, is that even though I said that Labour, listen, if Andy Burnham wins it, he'll come back and it'll almost certainly be the leader. If you can beat Reform in Makerfield, Labour MPs will lap him up very quickly, and the majority will. There are still many people in the Parliamentary Labour Party that do not like Andy Burnham. There are people there that see him as a careerist. There are people that see him as a political chameleon who has successfully reinvented himself from a Blairite special advisor into a sort of a soft left Tribune, self-styled King of the North, who loathes Westminster, supposedly. And there are people that remember him being the last out the door from Jeremy Corbyn's shadow cabinet, only when he saw the writings on the wall. And so, yes, there's lots of people in Parliament that like him, lots of people who see him becoming the next leader and therefore are sort of trying to align themselves with him in that sort of when the herd moves, it moves. There are lots of people that also will be quite frustrated if he comes back.
Indeed. Jack, appreciate your time as ever. Enjoy the bank holiday on the balcony with your feet in buckets of ice. It will be a sight to behold. Jack Elson is political editor over there at The Sun. Thank you to him. Over to you, 0344 499 1000. Let me just remind you that in that constituency, these are the other candidates. These are the full list of candidates. Makerfield by-election, Jake Austin, Lib Dems, Andy Burnham, Labour Party, Alan Howlin, Lord Hope, the official monster raving loony party, Robert Kenyon, Reform UK, Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain, Peter Ward, Rejoin EU, and Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party. We're also taking tips on how to keep cool. We've had some imaginative ones. You may not have been listening in the first hour when Lainey dropped us a very innocent text saying, I live in a static caravan. It's 48 degrees inside the caravan. I've got to work from home. How do I keep cool? Now, the obvious answer, courtesy of Charlie Rowley, was, well, stand outside because it's cooler outside is inside the caravan. But it has offered up many, many mechanisms, almost Roadrunner style, sort of more imaginative ways to achieve your aim of staying cool, involving ice pops, fans, buckets of water and wet towels. Other suggestions are welcome. Georgina in Cambridge says, the best thing I've got managing for the heat is a portable air conditioning machine. Bliss. Have to agree. I've got one as well. It's not a brilliant one. We've had it for about 5 years. It weighs a ton, this thing. You just stick it by one window and then you have to put the tube outside the window. It's a bit unsightly from outside. Boy, it does work. It doesn't work as well as it used to, this whole thing. But yesterday, I lobbed it on and every half an hour nipped into the bedroom. It's just one in the bedroom. Nipped into the bedroom and it was just beautiful. It was like that moment of going on holiday. You know, when you're by the beach on holiday or by the pool and you go indoors to go back to your hotel room and you just hit with this wonderful, heavenly-like aircon. It was that. But you can get them now. I mean, our one was a couple of £100, I think, if that. I think they're a bit more expensive because they've realised a bit more of an appetite for them. But I bet you they're sold out. I bet you if you go to all the usual websites, they'll be hard to get. And, of course, by the time you get one, the heat wave is over. Have somewhere to store it as well. 0344 499 1000. More coming up from you in just a couple of moments. Let's get a voice note on all matters weather-related. This comes from Sarah.
Loved the first hour with Charlie Rowley. Very, very funny. Made me chuckle. Talking about everywhere not being tropical in the UK, we are currently on holiday in Scotland. We've been over to Skye. Whilst it's very beautiful, we got absolutely soaked. We're currently at Fort William and certainly not tropical here. Phone says it's 13 degrees. But I'm walking the dog along the Caledonian Canal at the moment and it's very breezy and I definitely have fleece on. Maybe even put a coat on when we go out properly later. Okay, thanks. Bye. Great show.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You've caught me still with sausage sandwich. I was just explaining, you have to eat in instalments when you do this job. You've only got breaks and news bulletins to have a quick bite. I've had that sausage back for about 7 hours now. It'll be walking out this studio on its own. Let's talk Trump and all matters American related. Michael Yaki is with us, US political analyst, former senior advisor to Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi. Good to have you with us, Michael.
Always a good pleasure to see you.
It's the fact that you're over here at just the right time as well, because you travel around quite a bit, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, which is not a bad way to spend a life.
Well, actually, I've been reducing the amount of time I spend in America, so it is kind of refreshing, and it's good to. For me, it's fun to bring an education, to bring sort of an American perspective to what is going on, because it's certainly the British perspective or the European perspective isn't going on in any thinking in the White House right now.
Well, that's what when I speak to American mates of, I've got a friend of mine, she's an absolute diehard Democrat, so I'm never going to get anything positive about Trump from her. That just goes with the territory. I understand that. But she's telling me that America is, the economy is doing okay, but it's kind of a tale of, there's 8 different stories going on. It's not everybody is suddenly planning their retirement and having great days, apparently. Well, according to her, at least.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. There's this huge disconnect right now between the American stock market and the international oil markets, right? Which is, the oil markets have been going crazy till they kind of went down because of the announcement by, the sort of announcement by Trump. We're still trying to figure out what that announcement really is an announcement of, but at least the Brent oil and everything else has gone down. Stock market just keeps on going up and up, and it's fueled by AI, it's fueled by that, but how that translates into the average American, that's why Trump's popularity is below 40%. It's because no matter how you look at the economy as a whole, it's the same kind of economy that Joe Biden ran on, that Kamala Harris ran on Joe Biden's economy, and that Trump took advantage of in the 24 election, which is, structurally, we seem to be fine. At the micro level, which is when you go and fill up your car with petrol, or where you're trying to buy a loaf of bread or eggs at the market, that is still way up here. Right. And the American people said, we elected you because you said you were going to focus on that. Instead, you're busy, kidnapping guys in Venezuela and bombing Iran. And what are you doing?
I'd forgotten about the egg thing. You just said it, eggs. I remember. Eggs. People were charging like $20 an egg. People were dealing in eggs, weren't they, almost? This became the new contraband, do you want to buy some eggs?
Got some eggs in the back of my truck here.
Exactly. That's how people got over the border back then, isn't it? They just reduced some eggs to the border force. Come through, guys, come through. It's no problem. Let's have a look at what is happening in Iran at the moment. There's a little clip we're going to play you here, Michael. This is Donald Trump talking about how close that deal is.
Well, other countries have come to me and they've said we were getting ready to do a very major attack tomorrow. I've put it off for a little while, hopefully maybe forever, but possibly for a little while, because we've had very big discussions with Iran, and we'll see what they amount to. I was asked by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and some others if we could put it off for 2 or 3 days, a short period of time, because they think that they are getting very close to making a deal. And if we can do that, where there's no nuclear weapon going into the hands of Iran, I think, and if they're satisfied, we will be probably satisfied also.
There's a lot I don't understand in this, Michael. Even if somebody is a supporter of Trump, they will still be shouting at their radios going, hang on, nuclear weapon, wasn't that capability taken out a year before?
Right.
And the satisfaction that it could never happen again was established.
Well, I mean, if you go further back, the Obama agreement in 2015 basically said, you can't enrich, we'll relieve you on sanctions. This is how it's going to work. And then Trump comes in 2016, tears it all up, and the Iranians go, okay, we're going to enrich, you're punishing us, we're going to enrich uranium. And that's where we are, that's why we have the situation we are in right now. But in terms of, we obliterated it, didn't we? But apparently,
I mean, there was a lot of those press conferences at the time saying, you know, these guys have got no nuclear capability now.
Right. None.
And
no missiles.
now it's on the table as a deal to promise that they
we're,
won't have
we're kind of back to like 2012 in terms of what and I think Iran is trying to reset the negotiations of 2012. What they did in 2015, because it took them 3 years with Obama to negotiate that agreement. So they're going to a reset of 2012 and going, can we get a better deal than we got from Obama? Because now all of a sudden everyone realizes that we have this trump card called the Straits of Hormuz that we can now unveil at any time we want, throw the entire Western oil reserves into complete frenzy, and make Trump start dealing with whatever he wants to do. Because Trump needs to get out of this. He's worried about the American midterm elections in November. And when you think about it, yes, if he lost the Congress or the House of Representatives or the Senate, it would mean that his agenda wouldn't be due. But that's not what he's scared of.
Sure.
What he's scared of is if the Democrats were to win the House and the Senate, that he would be impeached again. When it comes down to Trump, it's all personal, and that's what he's concerned about. You were saying, is there anything good to say about Trump? I will say this. Unpredictability by Trump has actually been, I think, a weirdly positive thing.
Yeah.
You can't really rely on him to go through the usual norms. On the other hand, when you're so unpredictable, you can't predict what it is you're doing what the reaction is going to be. Then you have an issue. So partly that unpredictability, I think, has been an interesting asset in foreign policy. Here, however, not so much.
I do find it interesting. He is the kind of I don't want to use the term supreme leader. That sounds all wrong. But he is kind of the very best at, you know, when you have an argument with somebody, whether it's in the workplace or a partner, and you say, you just said this, and they'll say, no, I didn't. No, you literally just said it. No, I didn't. No. I didn't say. And Trump will do that. So he told us this Iran thing was going to be a couple of weeks long. There'd be a complete regime change. As far as I can tell, the son of the last leader is now running it. He might not be in the best of conditions.
That's now regime change. Remember, now he said, well, we did change the regime.
But it's some of the head honchos are still the same people.
But the head is gone.
So therefore it's changed.
So therefore there's
this
change.
place was going to look like Las Vegas in a couple of weeks. It was going to be a secular country back to 79. Everything was going to be tickety.
Well, so is Gaza.
That indeed. Well, that has. I mean, certainly with Iran, that hasn't happened, and even those words seem to have gone off the table now.
Well, the idea that initially, before he even started bombing, he was saying, we're going to take actions that will allow the Iranian people to rise up and take. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
He didn't intervene at that. And then, you know, Bibi, and he says, "Hey, I got this great plan. We're going to go." And did you hear the latest, which was that they were going to try and bring back in Mahmoud Ahmadinejad to be the new supreme leader, the guy who is under house arrest right now?
Yeah. That would have been something.
Well, Israel had a whole plan. They even bombed the guy's security gate to kill all the guards who were supposedly protecting him, but it was really house arrest. And they accidentally, of course, injured him, so he kind of got ticked off about that. But now he's running around going, oh, no, that wasn't happening. But I imagine the most scared person right now in Iran is Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, because the New York Times basically outed him as the replacement leader that at least Israel was trying to put in.
Yeah. He doesn't even want to put the kettle on without thinking something's going to go off.
Right.
But to give Trump the benefit of the doubt, to go back almost, Michael, to what you were just saying about the unpredictability, is it possible that, hasn't quite worked out? You know, the Trump playbook was, let's do this thing, we'll get this thing done in a couple of weeks, and the neon lights will be up, new regime, everybody will be partying in the street, and there'll be a Starbucks on every corner. That was the kind of mood music. Hasn't quite done that. But what if it takes, another month, and that does happen? And so, it's a couple of months later than planned. Unconventional as Trump is, he's delivered. Do you see that day?
No. I mean, and the reason is that the same reason that every American president since Jimmy Carter has dreamed about decapitating the Iranian regime.
Yeah.
And then everyone who games it out comes to one conclusion. If they widen the war, if they go after the Straits of Hormuz, this thing turns into a nightmare for the Western powers. And that's exactly what happened. He ignored all that.
Yeah.
The only way this could possibly work out is if we were to, and I assume we are. I come from two generations of diplomats, so I speak with a little bit of this. I assume that we are trying to funnel money into the resistance in Iran. You would hope that they would, not just the Kurds up in the West causing a bunch of stuff, because the Kurds are not going to govern all of Iran. But that's going to take time, because we did not do it beforehand. We did not set up any infrastructure. It would, like I said, Israel had this crazy plan to bring in the former president of Iran, who was, by the way, who called for the extermination of Israel any number of times. It's kind of interesting. I guess people change. I don't know, but I just thought that was just rhetoric. But no, I think that realistically, what we've seen is that the decentralization of command, the tight grip that the Revolutionary Guard still has on the country, is going to make this nigh impossible unless a long, sustained resistance campaign, well funded by America and other countries, really starts to go. Then you can go. Then you can look at a decapitation strike with something real to take its place.
Just a final question then. I know you're not not a natural Trump supporter, but if Kamala Harris had been sitting in the White House, what would this whole Middle East thing look like? Because a lot of smart money, even a lot of Democrats going, thank God Kamala is not there, because this would have been a disaster.
Well, I've known Kamala for quite some time. I think that caution is something that is something that...
You can have too much caution, can't you?
But the question is, what would she be doing? I think that she would be trying to engage, to put back in the Obama deal, which they would not be able to get in, because the Iranians are going, wait, we got all this uranium. What do you mean? We're starting now from a different position. So it would be frustrating. People would be there'd be a different kind of pressure, like, look at them, they're making a laughing stock out of you, they got their things going on. But I think that there's some things that would continue to happen. I think that targeted strikes at their nuclear facilities would continue. But that's been sort of the game, right? The game is we go in, we kill we work with Mossad, we kill some of the scientists, we blow up some of their nuclear facilities, but we didn't do what Trump did this time, which was, well, let's just try and lay waste to the country and see if something new will come about. So I think it would have been the status quo, but I think that if you were to do a poll of pretty much every political leader and the average person on the street who is looking at filling their car up with gasoline or petrol, they would say, I'd rather have the status quo than the pre-war status quo that we got right now.
So you think Trump's that unpopular on this point?
Oh, very.
Yeah.
Very.
But I always thought with fuel, or gas, as you would call it in the States, filling up your car is not dependent on the Middle East.
Everything is dependent on the Middle East. And that's the fallacy, which is, we can be a net producer of energy. Where is that energy going? How is that being refined? The fact is that the world market is connected. You just can't sort of say, well, we're going to take out 20% of the world's supply and we're going to be fine, because stuff that everything goes up in price. And the other thing that Trump doesn't understand is that what does oil do? They produce plastic. Where does plastic produce consumer goods? Where do the consumer goods come from? China. So these things are all connected, and like I said, unpredictability in some ways can be good, but unpredictability without understanding the consequences of that unpredictability, that's why we are in the situation we are now.
Michael, good to see you, sir. Thank you. Michael Yaki with us on the programme, US political analyst, former senior advisor to Nancy Pelosi. Thank you to him. More from you coming next on Talk.
conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts. Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is 5 to 9. Well, I can't believe it's 5 to 9 already. Goodness me, where has that time gone? Welcome along, Bank Holiday Monday. It's Ian Collins in for Jezza, and time to get some sports news.
90 minutes in 90 seconds.
From the Sun.
Can we even do it justice in 90 seconds? Tom Barkley, football writer for The Sun, is with us. Tom, happy days if you're a Spurs fan, but terrible, terrible moments if you are a Hammer.
Absolutely. Morning, Ian. I was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium yesterday for a very nervy, tense affair, which ended up being one of sheer relief from Spurs' perspective.
Sure.
But obviously, on the other side of London, East London, despite beating Leeds 3-0, it was misery, unfortunately, for West Ham, who got relegated 14 years in the Premier League. They're back down, despite finishing on 39 points, which would have been more than enough last season and the season before that to stay up. And now the questions are all being directed in the direction of the chairman, David Sullivan, who got booed during the game, and which players are going to leave, because there's a sort of £100 million black hole that they're going to have to compensate for following relegation. And my expectation is England star Jarrod Bowen might well be first out the door, as much as West Ham fans would hate to hear it, just because he's probably their most sellable asset.
Well, I was going to say, when you're kind of a national team player and you're about to be relegated, it's not a fit, is it? It's not one that sits very comfortably. That 1 minute you're playing at Lincoln and the next minute you're playing, the biggest stadium in the world in Argentina or something.
100%. I mean, Jarrod Bowen, to be fair to him, is Mr. West Ham. He might well be the kind of character who could be convinced to stay, but it might be taken out of his hands, really, given, as I said, he's a sellable asset who other clubs are going to want, despite being 29, which is obviously an older age for a player.
True.
And West Ham are going to have to box clever financially in the hope that they can turn it around next season and come straight back up.
Indeed. I mean, it's sad because it's arguably their most convincing win of the season as well.
Yeah, just too little, too late, really. I mean, Spurs looked like they were plummeting towards the Championship, and despite being ever present in the Premier League ever since it was brought into its formation in '92, that they made the choice, finally got it right with their third manager of the season, Roberto De Zerbi, who worked a miracle, really. They were really going only in one direction. He turned them around. And for West Ham, they had a mini revival, but it wasn't enough.
Did Everton just not show up yesterday? What happened there? Because the smart money suggested that the best Spurs could hope for was a draw, but most likely scenario was an Everton win, but never happened.
Well, I don't know about that, because when it's all on the line, as West Ham proved by convincingly beating a very good Leeds side, that things can happen like that. And I have to say, Everton did look like maybe the ideal opponents yesterday. They were technically still playing for something. They could have finished in Europe had they won and results gone their way. Okay. But they didn't really lay much of a glove on Spurs, who in the second half started to drop back deeper and deeper. Maybe the ideal opponents given what was at stake.
Indeed. Tom, have a great day. Thanks for being with us. Tom Barkley, football writer for The Sun, with us here on Talk. Margaret says, sausage sandwich, my favourite is sausage and tomato. Tasty, but no sauce. And Ian, DIY this week. Good luck with the bed. Yeah, you remembered. I'm going to be stuffed in my kids' room, putting beds and shelves and God knows what else up. It's a first world problem, I get it, and I'm quite excited about that, but man, is it going to be hot. More calls from you on that, how to stay cool, and all the other big issues. 0344 499 1000. Let's get the news at 9.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back. It is the Home of Common Sense. Ian Collins in for Jezza for this week. It's a bank holiday. It's absolutely stonking weather, potentially 35 degrees, unless you're in the Isle of Skye, where right now it's about 13 or 14 degrees and it's raining. It seems extraordinary, doesn't it, that you can be in the same, essentially in the same country, and the weather can differ so wildly. But it is fair to say most of the country will have a pretty good day. It's heat wave Britain, everybody. And while you're enjoying that extra day off, for some people, this is the norm, because every day is a day off. We've been also talking about the number of people on long-term unemployment. It's the highest for a decade. Just shy of 500,000 of your fellow Brits have never gone to work in over a year. What is going on there? And it comes at the same time that we learn that taxpayers are spending 25 times more on welfare for young people than they are getting them into work. These are the findings of Alan Milburn, former government Health Secretary. We also learned that some parents, and this is absolutely tragic, some parents are stopping their kids taking on apprenticeships because it means the parents will lose benefits if their kid is no longer in education. Now, that can't be right at any level. And elsewhere, the Prime Minister has waded into that horrific story of the judge who refused to jail 3 teenagers for rape. Starmer has called it appalling. It turns out the judge has form in not jailing those found guilty for serious sexual offences. Details on the way, and of course your comments along the way too. If you want to leave us a voice note, 0344 499 1000. Does Britain have a worklessness crisis? And on a lighter note, tips for keeping cool in the hot weather. And boy, have we had some belters. 0344 499 1000. John in Paul says, I have a very good way of keeping cool in the UK. Stop making out like we're under attack by the heat. Just enjoy it. If the Brits lived in countries like Zimbabwe or Namibia, this weather would be par for the course. And no one there goes on as if it was the end of the world. Grow up, Britain. Absolutely right. I do think, though, a lot of it comes down to the air. It's when you can't escape it. Although that said, I'm sure Zimbabwe's aircon setup is probably not like California's air conditioning setup, or Spain for that matter. So I think it's that, isn't it? If you've not got a way to get cool. So you go indoors and it's hotter than outdoors, and you go outdoors and you go under the shade, but it's still hot. And you go to the pub and the pub hasn't got aircon, and that's still hot as well. Is there any? The only time is if you get in your car. I've known people sit in their car, turn it on just for the aircon. Is that the only answer? Linda says, poor Jezza. He's in a tent glamping with his wife and kids. I'm not laughing. We were just talking about that, Linda, during the break. He might not even survive this. Frankly. I mean, he's gone off for a week glamping. I don't think there's any such thing as glamping when it's this hot and you're in a tent. And the other thing, when I did it once as well, was if you've got a white tent, at about 4:15 in the morning, somebody might as well just shine a torch into your eyeballs, because that's as light as it gets. It was, I thought I was in I thought I'd been kidnapped. It's like, what's happened to me? Like waking up in a sack or something. It's like, but it was just a big canvas sack, and the light coming in, and how do I get out of this? It's the birds as well. What's up with those birds? Have they got no respect? Oh, it's Britain's wildlife. Wildlife, schmildlife, frankly. I don't want to be hearing that malarkey at that time of the morning. I'm having my eyes lasered out by the sunshine, and I've got a crow giving it large in the left ear. That is not the way to wake up in the morning. Jez has got a week of that. Good luck, Jez. He's back next Monday, of course. And JB says, holidaymakers in the west of Scotland, you're on the wrong side. Head for the east for comfortably warm, sunny weather. It's beautiful here in East... is that Balfangi? Caravan Park in Aberdeenshire. JB, thank you for that. And John, also in Aberdeen, says, I live in Scotland. I'll trade you an AC unit for a heater. Have a great day. Let's get a word from the always super cool Annunziata Rees-Mogg, head of comms for Popular Conservatism. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and I hope after this you can enjoy the beautiful sunshine and not run in fear that we're in an apocalypse of heat.
Indeed. How are you in the aircon department? Have you, because I've got a few mates who've, a friend of mine, he went the full hog, cost him a good, I mean, it really did cost him a lot of money, did every single room in his house. And he said it was the best thing he's ever bought, and it was the best experience, almost level with his children being born.
I may have a relation who has a house in London and does have air conditioning. However, out in Lincolnshire, we slum it with no air conditioning, but old houses, they knew how to build them.
Yeah.
I go outside in summer to warm up because our house is still so cold. There is no air conditioning. It just stays cold.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. My house was built in 1745. I don't mean 5:45. I'm talking about the year. And it does have a bit of that. I mean, the very top, it actually can be, it's chilly in winter.
Yeah.
But...
oh, yeah, we're cold in winter, but...
cold in winter. But we're made of tough stuff, Annunziata. We don't care about that.
No, we put on layers, and then in the summer you can actually function perfectly well. And I think modern houses, they just haven't included the natural cooling that they used to know about. And it's kind of important because we have always had hot days in this country. This is not completely new.
Exactly. We don't get them consistently, but we get them.
And we have to get through them. And so we need to live in a way that accommodates that, but also just not be terrified, to just understand that this will be 3 or 4 days and we'll be back to normal. And personally, don't go camping. Jezza, enjoy it, but not my cup of tea.
It's everything about that. I extend the don't go camping to don't go to music festivals as well. And this isn't the fact that I'm now, and you wouldn't believe this, I'm now over 30. It's not because I'm getting old. It's not because I'm getting older. I didn't want to do that when I was 18. I did the thing of going to the Munich Beer Festival, with a little backpack and some mates, and we thought, this will be great, lashings of ale and some stuff going on. It'll be brilliant. It was horrific, because I don't want to sleep or even urinate in a bush, frankly.
No, I did Glastonbury or Glastonbury, whichever you prefer to call it, once when I was in my very early 20s, and it was all so grim and so muddy. I actually slept in my car and then drove the 12 miles home to my parents to have a shower because we live in Somerset. I mean,
That's brilliant. You drove home for the day. Let's look at the temperatures elsewhere in the world of politics, because that really gets no better. Popular conservatism, which is your organisation, what is the state of conservatism in this country, and how do we define it now? Because, of course, we've got Reform, who've been nipping at the heels forever. The Conservative, I say forever, in the last load of years of the Conservative Party, they're clearly gaining a lot of traction. And then you have another division that's now formed, because you've got Restore, who could seriously cost Reform a by-election. And then you've got Advance UK, it's a much smaller outfit, but they're there agitating from the wings. What is conservatism today?
I mean, I think we have to appreciate that all of those parties are distinct and they are different, and they have their own view of what would be best for this country and how best to get there. But I think we're in a very peculiar time where this by-election is not electing any old MP. It's electing someone who will, if he wins, almost certainly be our next Prime Minister. And it's become a battle of left versus right. And everyone on the right wants to control immigration. Everyone on the right wants to have a smaller state, fewer quangos, more democratic accountability. And I think what's at stake in this election is bigger than any of the parties. It is an existential crisis for the country, and the right should come together and make sure that they can win. And in this case, and we saw the poll out yesterday, where Labour's on 43%, and Reform are on 40. You've then got Restore on 7. And the Conservatives, who I don't know for certain, but I'm pretty sure are keeping this as low-key as possible on purpose. They would never admit that, clearly, but they're down on, I can't remember now, was it 1-2%, like really insignificant. And I think that that is the sensible path. It is to allow the party on roughly the same side. And no, they're not identical. And no, they wouldn't do exactly the same things. But it's one MP from the right's point of view. And from the left, it's the next Prime Minister. And Andy Burnham has not only flip-flopped on major policies, he's flip-flopped on his views on trans rights. He's flip-flopped on rejoining the EU. He's flip-flopped, I've lost count of how many times, on what to do about our tax burden. But even his flip-flops include increasing it massively. He wants to nationalise all sorts of industries, including housing. This is a fight for the future direction of the country, and the right has got to win it. They should all row behind each other.
I was going to say, I mean, there are people that say the Tory, even in your own family, dare I say, that believe the Tories should step aside. Would that, I mean, is it the Tories that need to step aside? Because fundamentally, they're not going to be the big problem.
They're not, and I think they are not fighting this as hard as
I think you're right.
Some by-elections, and I think that was sensible. I personally think they should have done the big thing and not stood a candidate at all. And normally, in any normal election, I would say that was anti-democratic. That meant that real Tories didn't have anyone to vote for in their own party, and we should always stand. But this is not a normal election. It is so unusual to be electing the next Prime Minister.
It's curious, isn't it?
You've got to throw everything.
Yeah, it's got the sort of vibes of a general election about it, such as the importance of all of this. If I was a constituent in that area, I would be a little bit grumpy about how this has played out for many reasons, not least the, well, I suppose you could say the sheer benevolence of the former sitting MP. What a lovely man, just to give up your livelihood for no good reason. None whatsoever, didn't want anything back in return. There's been no private conversation about the House of Lords or anything like that. Just a lovely, charitable man who wants to do good for his country.
Absolutely, and I'm sure it's nothing to do with the fact that Labour Together, which he used to run, is under investigation for digging the dirt on respectable journalists. And
nothing to do with that, no.
Nothing to do with that, no.
Well, the world is full of lovely people. Isn't that a nice point to ponder on? Just let me get your view then on Kemi Annunziata. When it comes to popular conservatism, she's fighting. She's star seems to be rising at the dispatch box. We have various people from the world of entertainment, Nicki Minaj and others who are endorsing her almost on social media. She's turned a corner, that's for sure, but that isn't really borne out in opinion polls, and certainly not the last local elections. Can the Conservatives, if the Conservatives carry on with Kemi, can they eventually fully turn that corner, or do they need to do something more fundamental?
Well, we're in an unusual situation, particularly for the Conservatives, whereby the leader is more popular than the party.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good place to be in, that she can build on her vision of what the Conservative Party is. And she is definitely moving the party to proper conservatism, proper conservative values, and sidelining all of those wets who tried to undermine our democracy, who tried to keep us in the EU, who believed in a big state that is fundamentally unconservative. So I think she's making all the right decisions. She's making all the right noises. And I think it will feed down. But every poll that's been out in the last few months shows that the only way the right can win the next election is if Reform and the Tories do some kind of deal. And the question is, Will their egos let them do a deal? And will they do it in time to make sure they can defeat the left? Because if they don't, we're going to have a rainbow alliance of Greens who are eating away at Labour, Lib Dems who, if they've got a policy apart from falling off surfboards, I've no idea what they are, and Labour who are lurching to the left, whether it's Keir Starmer or anyone who replaces him. We're looking at a massively socialist coalition that the country can't afford.
It's not going to be dull between now and 2029. And Nunziata, thank you for your time. Enjoy the weather as well. Thank you. And Nunziata Rees-Mogg, Head of Comms at Popular Conservatism. Thank you to her. We're talking about politics. We're talking about the government. We're talking about by-elections. We've got a whole load of things up and running here. And, of course, the weather. Here's a voice note from George.
Morning, Ian. Happy bank holiday. As for Lainey, or Caravan Lady, maybe she has to stay indoors because she works for OnlyFans and therefore can't work outdoors under a gazebo next to the static caravan. Does that mean OnlyFans needs more fans? I don't know. Have a good bank holiday.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Talk. Welcome. Good morning. Home of Common Sense. Bank Holiday Monday. 30-odd degrees. It's an absolute beauty out there. Ian Collins in for Jezza for today and the rest of this week. He's only gone glamping, hasn't he? Apparently, the latest we're hearing from Jezza HQ is that it's complicated. That's all we're hearing. OK? Make of that whatever you will. We will update you throughout the course of the week. Simon in Devon says, I'm yet to hear one journalist ask Andy Burnham the simple question, why are you standing? Why are you actually standing? This came up, thank you, Simon, for that. It came up last week. Somebody called in and said, why is nobody asking him that question? Just a very simple question. Why are you standing in Makerfield? Because ordinarily, if you said, why are you standing in Solihull or Brig or wherever, whether it's a council election, like whatever, the answer would always be because I want to dedicate my time to this constituency that I know very, very well. I think the area needs a bit more TLC. I'd like to provide that. I'd like to be the conduit to Westminster. I'd like to make sure that local people have the amenities they want, and I will ensure that I make a bridge between Parliament and the Council, all of the usual constituency things. Now, Mr. Burnham can't really answer that question in that way because he's only standing for one reason, and this isn't a partisan point, it's just a fact, to become the Prime Minister. Now, for some people in a constituency, you might be quite grumpy that something as precious as a local member of Parliament, or should be, notionally speaking, would be used as a springboard for your career rather than your benevolence and assistance for tax-paying locals. I'm not the first to make that point, but Simon is absolutely right. It's a very simple question. Hey, Andy, why are you standing? You can ask the question. I'll run through the other candidates in that constituency in just a moment. Let's speak with Layla Cunningham, Reform UK's mayoral candidate in London. You're going to be fighting it out in a couple of years yourself, Layla, so you'll be watching every, I would imagine, every election, whether it's mayoral, local, national or otherwise, to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, I mean, here and even in America, there's a very interesting one going on in LA right now, where you've got a guy who's running in a really left city, but on right-wing policies. I mean, I guess they're right-wing, but it's, you know, less crime, less waste, less immigration, and you should look. He's called Spencer Pratt. I mean, his social media is pretty wild.
Spencer Pratt, did you say?
Yeah. He's got pretty crazy social media videos, but they're they're going viral.
Yeah, I'm going to have to search out Mr. Pratt and see if I can spend some time getting entertained. Meanwhile, back home, of course, Layla, and I know this isn't your neck of the woods, you're going to be a London candidate for mayor, but in Manchester, it's all happening, of course, and a very real danger for your party in this constituency. And I'm referring mostly to that poll at the weekend that put, I think, Labour on 43, Reform on 40, but Restore on 7. If that panned out, it would mean that Andy Burnham would win, and he would only win because Restore had come along and nicked some of your voters.
I mean, according to that poll, that would be the truth, yeah. But you know, polls narrow as we get closer to it. I think perhaps people initially think, oh, you know, this is a new thing, let me have a look. And then as it really comes to putting a cross there, they do tend to narrow. I think it's a very close race. And I think it's pretty crazy that this by-election's even happening, to be honest.
Well, if you look at how it happened, I mean, it's, you know, I don't know whether it's completely unprecedented. I'm tempted to say it probably is.
It must be, Ian, because I think, is it the only one where the Prime Minister of the party doesn't want their candidate to win?
Well, he says he does, of course. In fact, I think...
He might as well just resign.
I know.
That if Andy wins, he might as well just resign and you know, let
Well,
him...
he could. I mean, we had this discussion earlier. It's almost like... I think it was Jack Elson that made this point. It's almost like an assassin sort of asking their victim which way they want to go. Is he going to be phoning Keir up saying, right, I can make this easy for you. I can make I can make it difficult. So I can imagine Starmer saying,
I'll
okay,
make you an
Andy,
offer you can't refuse.
all of that, yeah. I can imagine Starmer saying, what about you give me a year, Andy, and then I step aside? He's not going to go for that, is he?
No. Do you think Andy will call an election?
I don't think he's going to call an election because I don't know why he would feel... Because he will go in there emboldened, won't he? He will go in there like he's won a general election and that he's starting from scratch. And I think he's going to unapologetically tear up big chunks of the manifesto. I can see a 50p tax rate coming in. It won't make the world of difference to the economy, but it's totemic, isn't it? 50p tax rate.
But hang on, you have a new leader, a completely new manifesto. Where's the mandate?
Well, quite. But when did that last stop politicians breaking a manifesto promise?
Well, it's one thing to change leader; it's another thing to change the whole platform, the whole mandate.
Well, would he not claim, as special circumstances?
We're always in special circumstances. I feel we're always in an emergency situation.
We absolutely are always in special. And of course, you can't just use that as a reason to completely change direction of a party that's been voted in on a particular set of ideas. But I sense that he kind of will. He'll claim that they're still keeping hold of the nuts and bolts of the manifesto, but just merely responding to events, dear boy, and all of that.
Well, I mean, they have a bump in the polls for once since they've been in power, I think. And before reality hits, he might just be like, you know what, this is the only time I'm ever going to have a bump in the polls.
A lot of the voters that are tempted, and I've lost count of how many times we've taken calls on this, that are more right-wing voters, and I'm not really including the Conservative Party in this.
Have any left-wing voters who call in this show?
Well, that's very true. It's a good point. I've been keeping a tally, but I lost the receipt that I was writing it on the back of. So I'll let you know when I do it again.
Yeah.
In terms of those on the right, Layla, there is an appetite for reform, restore, even Advance UK, all coming together. You'll have heard this argument many, many times, because that would be the only way to beat this sort of rainbow alliance of the left that could well be making further inroads with the Greens and Labour, Lib Dems even thrown in as well, and others. What's your initial response to that? Because mathematically, it would actually make sense.
I think policy-wise it wouldn't. I think ideologically it wouldn't. I don't really know what Restore stands for at all. You've got people saying stuff on X different to what their leader says in an interview. I've got people from Restore posting memes of me dead being pushed by Rupert Lowe in a wheelbarrow saying deport her.
Wow.
Yeah. I've got people from Restore who send me the most horrific. So, and I don't see Rupert Lowe condemning that. So I'm not sure exactly what their policy platform is, because it doesn't seem to marry.
How do you feel as a politician to say, I mean, I know what it's like as a radio presenter when somebody just happens to disagree with your views on welfare or something, that somebody wants to burn your house down and hope your family die. I've seen all of that over the years. When it's as personal, also when you're female, I wouldn't ever normally play or highlight a divide in gender on these points, but it is relevant that I think when somebody is, threatening sexual abuse and violence and that kind of stuff, I mean, is it water off a duck's back, or do you find that that disturbing to the point that it's upsetting?
I mean, words can be water off a duck's back, but when you see a photo of you, AI driven, that you're dead in a wheelbarrow being pushed by Rupert Lowe.
Someone, you know what I can't get about that?
And you know what was really disturbing is I kind of know my mum saw it somehow.
Yeah.
She was super traumatized. Imagine seeing your daughter kind of dead.
Someone made that. That's what I can't. A bloke, and it will be a bloke, sat down at a computer and made that. And took some, even if you're using AI, which can happen rather quickly, they still produced it, looked at it and thought, yep, that's good to go. I'll upload it now. I mean, you have to wonder.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I feel like the discourse has kind of changed a bit.
Yeah.
On X.
It really has, and you see it all the time. I was arguing with a guy at the weekend as to whether we're a television station or a radio station, and not arguing. Sorry, that's the wrong. It was a very brief discussion, but I thought it's kind of interesting that someone is telling me where I work. But people have lots of very unqualified views on social media, and I guess in the echo chamber you can't change that.
I don't mind unqualified views. I think everyone's allowed to. I think that's the great thing about social media is that you actually have a view and people listen to it, so you don't feel completely unheard. I just think it's shifted to be a bit menacing, a bit different. You know, we're no longer like those kind of memes that come out. You know, I never saw them 6-7 months ago.
Yeah, they've become. They are produced at such speed.
Kind of vitriol, and I'm getting more of that. Really horrible stuff said as well. You know, you effing foreigner, get the F out of my country. You know, and honestly, I mean, I'm born and raised here. I've never ever been told things like that. Never in my life.
That's extraordinary. That's the old language back from the 70s and and before.
Never.
That.
But even in the 80s, you know, I don't even think of myself as a foreigner in any way, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I get that kind of language a lot on X, and they say they're Restore supporters in their bio.
It's kind of
so that's you know,
how we've taken ourselves to this.
They might be bots, they might not. I don't know.
Well, some might be, but my guess is most probably aren't, and I just wonder how someone's mind takes them to such sort of levels of abuse, because it is abuse, and it's when people go, it's just hurty words on Twitter. No, that's not. That's a bit more than hurty words. I mean, that's something that could probably result in a criminal offence, I would imagine, if it gets to that kind of level. But it's just curious who live among us, right?
Well, I mean, who knows if they're even in this country, to be honest.
Well, that's also true. Yeah, there is also that.
But I've noticed that kind of language has picked up.
Yeah. Let's finish later on a lighter note then. It's going to be a beautiful day today, unless you're in the Isle of Skye, where it's a bit grim and raining, by the way. We've heard that from some of our listeners there this morning. I mean, 35 degrees, possibly. How do you keep cool is, well, not you personally, but how does one keep cool? We've had some of the most imaginative suggestions, from putting ice pops in your ears and a towel around your head and your feet in a bucket of water. I'm sure all of that works, but a deeply impractical way to spend a Monday.
Well, you see, I like to exercise when it's really hot, because I feel like your limbs are kind of supple, so I'd like to go on a long run now.
Stop it. I was going to the pub yesterday and I saw a girl jogging on the road, and I nearly wound the window down and said, stop doing that now. It's ridiculous. But clearly there's a method in it. You've just echoed that.
There's a method. You're so much more supple. I mean, you can't go as long perhaps, but you're just limber. You know, you're warm, you're sweating, you're and it's that feeling of you're struggling and you're achieving something.
Yeah.
And then you come back and you have a cold shower, you wash your hair and you just chill.
And then call a doctor.
No, maybe at my age now.
I love it. Layla, thank you as ever. Layla Cunningham, Reform UK's mayoral candidate down in London. It's interesting on what she just said. Look, I'll tell you how this pans out, okay? What won't happen now, I won't get messages from people saying, I'm a Restore voter and I think it's outrageous what Layla has experienced. This is where the double down happens. So people will say, yeah, I'm a Restore, but that's not Restore people. That's Reform people pretending to be Restore people, or some other. There'll be a layer of a veneer of excuse around it. Frankly, I'm with no skin in the game here. I'm not fussed as to who it comes from, but the idea that you'd throw that level of proper abuse at a mum, a daughter, a woman, because that's relevant to some of the stuff that is said, is, I mean, it's so deeply disturbing. Again, think of it, somebody sitting in their room with a little laptop going, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make an image of a dead politician. I'm going to put them in a wheelbarrow, and I'm going to make some other comment along the way, and I'll post it on social media. I mean, you couldn't tell your kids that, could you? Kids, what did you do today, Dad? Oh, do you know what I did? Oh, it's brilliant, right? There's this politician, right? I pretended she was dead and hanging by the neck with her kids around her, all laughing as she died. That's what I did. Anyway, off you go. Go and watch Bluey. I mean, I don't think so. 0344 499 1000. I'm glad we've got some light with all the shade here. We're talking about the weather. We're talking about the heat. Let's get a voice note from Sparks.
This is just a surmisal based on pure logic, but I would imagine the reason they started doing the weather from Heathrow is probably because of the technical nature of the weather needing to be studied so well at the airport for flight and meteorological reasons, that the equipment was there, and it's probably just become habitual by proxy. So that's just a guess. As for staying cool, the best way to do it is with an evaporative method, i.e. you put on something which is slightly damp, and as it cools, it draws cold air between your skin and the damp item, which is, body loses heat 30 times faster when it's in water than it does in air. So there you go. That's how to stay cool.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Morning, Ian Collins in for Jezza for this week. It's Heatwave Monday. It's a bank holiday. Everything is good. This comes from Ernie. He says, my daughter went outside to an outside show for children, which she said was really good, but it was in a field and there wasn't any shade at all. And she had to leave early. And I said she should have taken a couple of umbrellas with you and some small battery fans. Just a thought for people planning to do the same. The thought of sitting in a field, because you're always you're a double target. It's not like your own backyard, is it, where you can either just come into the kitchen and grab a drink or, nip under the bush or the shed or whatever. If you're in a field, you are knackered, even with a brolly. It's going to be, I can imagine that, Ernie. Thank you for that. This from Wayne, who says, when I went to see family in Oz one day, it was, I don't think Wayne went for a day. I think he's saying one day while he was there. It was 23 degrees. All the school kids went to school in jumpers and trousers because it was chilly to them, while I was in shorts and vests and flip-flops, melting. I couldn't make it make sense. It's, yeah, whatever you're used to, right? Whatever you're used to. David Dorset says, how about some hot weather payments for pensioners to keep cool? It's a good point, but nobody knows how to keep cool. I have the perfect thing for this weather, my cellar. Don't know how to take that. My no air conditioning needed. It's a good point. If you've got a sort of dampish cellar and you can get down. I mean, it depends what your cellar looks like. I don't know if it's grimy and there's some old fella chained to a radiator under there. I mean, you don't want to be down there. But if it's nice and it's cool, nothing wrong with that. And this one from Simon in County Down. If Restore split this vote, the country will see it, and I think it's over for Rupert Lowe and his disciples. And nobody is talking about why Farage threw Lowe out of Reform. The internet loves to blame Farage and gives Lowe behaviour a free pass. Thank you, Simon, for that. It is interesting watching online. I know it's only online. In many ways it doesn't matter, but in other ways it is a kind of sort of microcosm of what is going on in larger areas, to watch Restore and Reform supporters battling it out, because they will both argue it was Nigel's fault, it was Rupert's fault, this wouldn't have happened, Rupert's the real deal, Nigel's the real deal, Rupert's the only one putting country before party. No, Nigel's the one doing that. And on it goes. It's he said, she said with booster rockets, and it's hard to keep up. 0344 499 1000. Let's speak with Angela Levin, the royal biographer who joins us, a regular on the programme. Morning to you, Angela.
Good morning.
I was about to say, you know, thinking about all the heat that's out there at the moment, and then I thought, here we are complaining, and poor old Meghan and Harry put up with this all the time over there in California. I think maybe we should start a crowdfunder for them.
Oh, they've got plenty of money, don't worry.
Yeah. Where are they? They did their thing in Australia, didn't they? Their big tour.
Yes.
And I don't know whether that panned out as they wanted it to, or what it did specifically, but they do feel like they're the couple that are kind of perpetually onto the next project. What can we do next? We did the tour of Australia. We made it look a bit royal without saying it's royal, and boy, did they try and make it look like a royal tour. There was all of that going on. And then they kind of come back home, and then she makes some more jam, and then Netflix decide whether they're going to can them or hire them, and goodness knows what. They're always in this kind of constant treadmill of the next idea.
Well, Meghan can't stop that, because if she doesn't do something, she won't have pictures and people won't know what's happening. So it's sort of all the time. If you remember, not long ago, William, who she likes very much, mentioned something about, little things, jam and cream in them. And he said that his wife liked them very much. So 5 minutes later, Meghan had made them, but she'd made them with hard bread. But just that she had the jam and the cream on the top. She's really odd. And now she's doing more jam. She's opening cupboards and saying, all my family want a different taste of jams. I saw this morning, and Lily likes this one. My husband, she never calls him by name. My husband knows this, and she does all that nonsense. Who cares? It's nothing. But she has to be photographed. She's done up, and she can't stand it if she's not actually known. But now Netflix aren't doing anything for her in that area, and so she has to do it herself. So she's desperately trying to make money out of it. But the jams are not successful. Most people think they're extremely expensive and not tasty. So,
of all things to become kind of... she sounds like a jam addict, to be honest. I don't know whether there's a sort of jam anonymous place in California. I'm sure there is. But she... why the jam? What is it with the jam, for goodness sake?
Well, when she liked taking jam long ago, and she thought she could really be very, very successful about it. She thought she'd earn masses of money because everybody eats jam. She gets it wrong. She doesn't know. She doesn't understand about people, does she? Because she says things one day that, isn't it disgusting about children going on the television and all that? And then you find that not even a minute later, she's actually got a child sort of helping her go ahead with something that she wants to do. Yeah. So I think she doesn't actually understand that people can actually snap something she's doing and then see that the opposite comes out as well.
Yeah.
You don't want to know, actually.
It's very bizarre. Dealing in jam is, it's a perilous
job. Look at that. And she's got sticking her fingers in it. Oh, horrible.
Yeah, loves a bit of jam, that one. Let's move to this story. Back to terra firma, Angela, and some grim news. I don't know how much grim news you can throw at Prince Andrew, but, of course, it just almost keeps on coming, certainly by the week, if not by the day. And we now learn that he's accused of inappropriate behaviour some years ago, 20-odd years ago, at Royal Ascot. But this is the kind of stuff that the police will look at and pursue if they have to.
Yes. I wonder what an inappropriate behaviour is, really. It doesn't necessarily mean very much. I'm not that I stand for him at all, but...
No, but I take your point. It's a very wide term, isn't it? Is inappropriate
Yes.
behaviour saying, are you single, darling? You know, fancy a drink.
Yes.
Is that inappropriate behaviour?
Or sort of give you a little sort of hug, you know, and you wouldn't like that. I mean, it's a bit of a strange word to use. They're not actually deciding exactly. But this was the at Royal Ascot on the Queen's Golden Jubilee in 2002, and he was sitting in the round with her, looking at everything and being very nice, and obviously a very good son at that time. But the story seems now is that the late Queen Elizabeth, who adored him, doesn't feel that anything happened like that at all. And in a way, I can believe that, because a lot of people have been attacking her, which I think is terrible. They're attacking her because of what happened, but he kept everything secret from his mother. She didn't know all these things. She knew that he was very keen on girls, but, you know, a lot of mothers can think their sons are keen on girls and not meaning it. But what the problem with his is he's pretending, or, you know, he's saying he doesn't know anything about any of it. And the police have taken a very long time to do any work. And I think that this might be to do with the Queen. They didn't want to upset her.
Yeah.
But now they seem determined to catch him. There's one woman who the police know in 2015, and they're sort of following with her, and they're begging people to open up and say what has happened. And I think in one way that's a good thing. In another way, it's very difficult, because if it happened 25 years ago or 10 years ago, you might feel so embarrassed about what happened to you.
True.
That you don't necessarily want to say it and to have it in newspapers and all that. So I don't know, some people think he'll get away with it altogether.
And I do wonder, when the police go on a fishing exercise, and I'll make this point really clear: if somebody has done something deeply inappropriate, then, you know, grab them, nab them, arrest them, charge them, whatever. That's a given. But if you simply put the question out, has this person ever been, and that word again, inappropriate, then, I mean, if somebody asked me that question, has anybody been inappropriate with you over 3 decades, I could come up with a big old list, you know? So, yeah,
right.
I really could. What about his daughters, Angela? I often wonder about this, because he is a father, and his daughters, as far as I can tell, have done nothing wrong. Not easy to maintain a relationship in most circumstances with your dad when all of these various allegations hang over you. What do we know about his relationship with his 2 girls?
Well, the family, the 4 of them, including mother, was very close. And they used to go out a tremendous amount with their mother and everything like that. And I thought to myself that they... Poor things, you know, it's been dreadful for them to come across this. But then when I heard that they were, I think it was 19 and 17 or just around that, where they went to see Jeffrey Epstein just when he came out of prison.
Yeah.
The mother took them, and they then put up a party.
I mean, really?
You know, if I was that age, or if my children would do something like that, I would say, you know, you can't come to that. You wouldn't even think about it. But if I was a child, if I was 19, 20 or something like that, I would say, I'm not going to that filthy old man. I'm just not going to go there. And I think that made me change how I felt about them. Because they could say no. A little child is a very, very different situation. But somebody like that, late teens, you can say, not for me.
Indeed. And just very finally, we understand King Charles has snubbed Andrew while staying at Sandringham. I mean, in many respects, no surprise, but surely he's just down the track there in a little house. He could knock on the door and say, fancy a cuppa.
I think that would be taken up by the papers, and everyone would say he's friendly again and he wants to be I think he'd best stay away. But he said he stayed away because everyone was looking at all the other houses, but I don't think that's true. I think what he went, because Wood Farm was the father, and he loved that. And his last months before he died, he stayed in Wood Farm because there's something essence that's lovely about it. So maybe he wanted peace and quiet and to try and think what to do. Maybe even to think whether it's going to be nicer to Harry, and I hope not.
Yeah, I wonder what the future, overarchingly, Angela, the long-term future for Prince Andrew. He's never going to be a royal again. That's never going to return. Whenever anyone, even if it's found that you have done nothing wrong legally, but the perception is your life's a little bit, a bit murky. And it's been an abuse of power, that kind of stuff. Even if it doesn't cross the threshold for a criminal act, the idea that you are that person, you are privileged, you're spoiled, you shout at people, underlings who don't do what you want, and you just, live a life uncaring of others' emotions or thoughts. I mean, all of that, I mean, there isn't a way back for that, is there? He can't suddenly pop up on Traitors or something and reinvent himself as a guy that, John Profumo style. I got something wrong, but I'm back to do something good.
Yes, I think you're right there, but he has got opportunities. He's been offered small houses and big houses. He's offered places by the sea. He's got friends, and they have offered him homes, and he could do that. And nobody's saying to him, you can't have any girls or anything like that. It's very grand, and he'll have people looking after the food and cleaning it and all that. So he could actually have a different life altogether. And I expect that that's what will happen, really. He'll skive off.
Yes, I mean, no one's going to shed any tears, are they, for a bloke that could live either in Dubai, Saint-Tropez, Western Australia, the Seychelles, the Caribbean, probably anywhere he wants, and live a very, very nice life. But of course, when you're in that place, you kind of wonder whether there's, something missing. It's okay to say when you're an outsider how good that looks, but when you're the person on the inside, what you really want is your name and your credibility, which he thought he had in bucket loads.
Yes, but I think he would be okay getting out of it, that he wants people to like him in a different place, and they will.
Indeed. Angela, on that point, thank you. Angela Levin, royal biographer with us. By the way, you can be addicted to jam. You can experience a food dependency and the psychological addiction to jam driven primarily by its exceptionally high sugar content. No other way around it. Meghan Markle is a dealer, I have to say, of jam, which is nothing else. Just jam. Let's get a voice note. We've been talking, of course, about the weather and all things weather related. Here's Phil. Morning, Phil.
Ian, it's Phil from Durban, regular contributor. I happen to be in the UK at the moment. What thing you should recognise, or your viewers must recognise, the sun is very, very dangerous. Certainly, I am aware of the sun in South Africa. In the December and January, it gets up to about high 30s, even 40 degrees. It never gets below 70 all year round. But I would warn people. I see people who have been exposed to really heavy sunlight, and you see in their faces their complexions become shuttered. Most of the men who work on farms and are exposed to the sun have black arms and black legs where they've had cancers removed. The sun is very, very dangerous. I mean, I stay out of the sun now. I've seen the damage it does. So all I would say to your viewers is be very, very careful. Use lots of sunblock and don't stay out in it too long. Great show, Ian.
not a wig.
It's a nutty canister, either way. I mean, look at the nut on it.
Bob Odenkirk! Saul was great. He was just a breath of fresh air. Amelia Clark! Star Wars versus Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, definitely.
Go.
I'm loyal.
Don't tell Alex Sasso!
In season 2, a lot of us get our clothes off.
You do know you did that in season 1.
Exactly, that's true, yes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is indeed Talk. Welcome back to the home of common sense. Terry says, I've had many times here in Brisbane. It's been over 40 degrees in the summer. We didn't melt. Although I've been in country